After months of waiting, the American football season returns this weekend with the Lingus College Football Classic in Dublin, Ireland, between Notre Dame and Navy. One of the most esteemed colleges in American football comes to Ireland for a home game for the first time in their history, and we will be with you all the way from this game this Saturday in Dublin to Las Vegas for Super Bowl 58 this February. Football season returns, and we're delighted to launch the Pro Football Ireland College Football Podcast. Hey folks, welcome into the Aviva Stadium in Dublin, Ireland. Michael McCabe, Daire and Conall Diggin for our first ever college football podcast, the PFI College Football Show. This is going to be great. College football comes to Dublin this Saturday. Notre Dame, Navy. This podcast is presented by 888 Sport, the official betting partner of the NFL in Ireland and the UK. Daire, I'll start with you, my friend. Welcome to Dublin. Here, we're a long way from home, aren't we?
We are a long way from home here. It's not quite the athletic grounds here, but it'll do for a college football game.
Well, from the athletic grounds to Mr. Carey himself, Mr. Boise State himself, Conall, this is the big week, man.
Yeah, it's going to be a long week, I think. Just maybe not enough sleep maybe being gotten, but so long as we get to Saturday and we get to watch an amazing football game, that's really all I care about.
If you are a regular tuner of our NFL coverage, you'll probably have seen these lads on a few podcasts, but we've done a lot of content for the NFL draft a few months ago. And this is the start of it now, we're going to have a college football podcast at least once a week from week 0 right until the CFB playoff, which is, I believe, in New Orleans. So this guy's booking the flights for that. But here, who knows? We're just putting it out there. We'll see what happens. We appreciate everybody's support. And if you're trying to get into college football, we appreciate you watching this and listening to this. There is an absolute heap of content on this episode and on this broadcast. Here's what we have coming up. We speak to Notre Dame head coach Marcus Freeman about his time so far and his hopes for the season ahead. The Athletic and NBC Sports college football expert Nicole Auerbach joins us. Navy head coach Brian Newberry stops by as the team prepare to head to Dublin. Jeff Reinebold has a special show where he looks at the influence that Notre Dame had on his life. And we look ahead to the high school games that take place in Dublin this weekend. So as we said, this is a massive week for college football, for American football in Ireland. And I guess, Daire, to start off with, Notre Dame coming to Ireland is like the mecca for football fans. An institution that prides itself on its religion. It's obviously a Catholic university. They're having mass here on Saturday. They are very, very proud to come over here. But forget about all that. Obviously, it's important. They're a hell of a football team, man.
Yeah, this is not just some kind of exhibition game. Definitely not. Notre Dame are one of the top teams in America at the minute. And as you say, perfect culture fit coming over here. They're going to absolutely pack out the stadium. I think they're probably going to send more from one individual team than we've ever seen at a game here in Dublin. So certainly excited to see. I don't know if they're going to be wearing green or if they're wearing gold or navy. We'll see when we get to Saturday. But yeah, it's one of the top teams in all college football. Is certainly their unbelievable defense. Returns 8 starters, which is very, very rare for a top-level defense in college football in this day and age.
Absolutely, and their old defensive coordinator, Marcus Freeman, is the head coach, still in his mid to late 30s. As a 32-year-old man, I feel suddenly very inept. You'll see the interview, and I was very, very impressed by him. But I think for anyone just watching him, and Daire said it there, to return those players, to have that defense, but more so to have the offensive power, it's great to have them here, isn't it?
It's absolutely amazing, and like they're a proper team. These aren't like, they're not going to just show up and play football and but then that would be the end we'll see of them of the year. Like, this is a genuine team that maybe doesn't have the highest chances of making college football playoff, but you can't rule them out at the end of the season. And I think this defense, as Daire said, is absolutely amazing. There's some really good offensive pieces, and there's a lot of guys you can look forward to seeing in the draft next year as well.
We got Navy coming over as well, of course, and obviously it's great to have them over as well. They're different because they come into the transfer portal. It's a really interesting thing for them, isn't it?
Yeah, they're probably one of the more unique teams in college football. You see people who aren't really fans of college football, they're sort of confusing, like the actual Navy, is that who's playing? Yeah, that is who's playing. The Navy have just a massive array of students in America, and so that's what they're unique team in that they run a triple option offense, which is something that is sort of a thing of the past in modern American football, but it's the most efficient way that they can coach players while also focusing on academic studies and being part of the actual Navy. So it's one of the more unique teams. They are still a very good team. They're really gave Notre Dame a run for their money last year. It was one of the better games of the entire season.
It was, and that's what that game. There was 2 or 3 points in that game. We were lucky last year to have 2 or 3 points in the Northwestern Nebraska game. How good would it be if that game was so close this weekend? And we'll have our picks at the end. Don't worry, but it'd be awesome, wouldn't it?
I think this game, like, there's a clear favourite. Like, I think everyone knows that, and they've been the favourite for pretty much like their entire history. But like, you can't, like, in the interview we did with Nicole Auerbach, which people will see later, she said you can't rule out Navy because their offense is so different from what every other team plays, and then their defense is just one of the best units in the entire country just for like making plays when they need to and getting turnovers when they need to. So it's a really interesting matchup, but I'm looking forward to see it because Navy are a team who they just shock teams randomly every couple of games.
And if we look at one player each, I mean, Jetty Bertrand, whose father, folks, he's a linebacker father from Blackrock in Dublin. He has a rugby background, played rugby before moving to the States. He had the year of his life last year, and he really now, as a captain last year, going into his next year as captain, he is the main focal point of this team. No doubt that he's going to get drafted at some point in the NFL. Great guy as well. We had the opportunity to meet him a few months ago, but it's not just him. There's some great players in this roster.
Yeah, well, on offense, all eyes are on Sam Hartman. He's the new transfer quarterback, 6th year player in college football. It's not often you see that. That's just everything that comes with redshirt years and COVID years. He's still in college football. Not sure. There's a pretty big show over here, QB1 on Netflix. Long ago, Sam Hartman was in season 2 back in 2019 in high school. He's come a long way since then. A few incredible years at Wake Forest. Now he's at Notre Dame, probably the best quarterback that Notre Dame have had in maybe 5 or 6 years. So that really adds an air of legitimacy to their offense, while their defense is, as I said earlier, still incredible. That really makes them a contender and a team to watch out for this year.
Absolutely, and we get to see his first game as well in Dublin. They have a hell of a run game as well, man.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I think you can't really rule out. I mean, this is one of the best offensive lines in the entire country. Maybe you could say the interior is a small bit weaker than what you'd want it to be, but their two offensive tackles are players who are going to not only get drafted, but they're going to be really, really good once they get to the NFL. Watch out for Joe Alt. He's the left tackle. He's 6'8", I believe.
6'8",
and he's a man mountain, and he just runs everyone over on the offensive line. And the running back you need to watch out for is Audric Estime. He had nearly 1,000 yards last season with over, I think it was a 10 or 20 less carries than the next running back. 11 rushing touchdowns. Like, he's really, really special. He'll lower the shoulder into anyone, and just to gain a couple extra yards, he's really, really fun to watch.
Well, we're really excited for all those guys. We're excited to see this college football game come on to EA Sports at some point. Please God, over the next couple of years, if it all gets worked out. This broadcast is presented by EA Sports Madden 24. If you want to win a copy on the PS5 or Xbox, all you got to do is like this YouTube video and comment using the hashtag Madden24. We'll pick a winner the day after the game this weekend. I had a chance to speak to Notre Dame head coach Marcus Freeman last week in terms of his thoughts on coming to Dublin. He's never been to Ireland before, boys. He's in for a treat this weekend. Here's the interview we have with Marcus Freeman.
Hey folks, welcome into Pro Football Ireland. Michael McQueen here as we get set for Notre Dame against Navy this Saturday in the Aviva Stadium as part of the Lingus College Football Classic. Well, we couldn't have a better guest than this. Notre Dame head coach Marcus Freeman joins us on what is a huge week for football on the Emerald Isle. And where do you start with Marcus Freeman? He is a guy that is a rising star in the world of not just college football, but football itself. He is the head coach of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and he has an unwavering passion for the sport. In 2021, Marcus Freeman became the defensive coordinator of Notre Dame. His strategic acumen and player development skills played a pivotal role in strengthening the Fighting Irish's defense and catapulting the team to new heights. He then, shortly after, became head coach of Notre Dame football. Known for his genuine connection with his players, Freeman prioritizes instilling discipline, hard work, and a winning mentality. Off the field, he remains deeply committed to the community, engaging in philanthropic endeavours and mentoring aspiring athletes. As the head coach of Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman continues to inspire his team, striving for excellence both on and off the field while leaving a mark on the rich legacy of college football. Well, I have to say, out of everyone that I've spoke to over the last 3 to 4 to 5 years, I love this interview with Marcus, and he seems like such a decent and genuine guy, and a guy, if you're a player on a team, you believe in him. And I got that motivation just from sitting on a Zoom call. So I'm buzzing for you to listen to this interview. It is a great interview. If you've enjoyed it, please do like, share, subscribe on YouTube. Please give us a review on the podcast. We appreciate it because such great content coming up this week as we get ready for the Lingus College Football Classic between Notre Dame and Navy this Saturday. And if you're interested, you can check out collegefootballireland.com for next year's game, which is Florida State against Georgia Tech. But for now, here's Marcus Freeman.
Coach Freeman, first off, man, talk to us about your relationship with Ireland. Is this your first time coming over to the Emerald Isle this week?
Yeah, this will be the first time, and I'm excited. I've heard nothing but great things about the country of Ireland, but also the city of Dublin, and so I'm extremely excited to get over there.
Awesome, and like you're entering your second full season as head coach of Notre Dame football. Can you talk to us about the pride you had when you were given the opportunity to coach these guys as the head coach for the first time?
Yeah, these guys are guys that I've fallen in love with, and guys that have a deep passion to see them have success, and so it is such an honor to be the leader of this football program, but it's about the relationships you get to build with these young people and about seeing them reach their goals. So I couldn't have been more honored to be named head coach here.
And obviously the matchup is the first for a number of months against Navy. It's in an interesting setup, thousands of miles from home, Dublin, Ireland to be exact, for the Aer Lingus College Football Classic. Look, is the approach for this game this week very much the status quo, or do you have to approach it differently because of the travelling as well?
I think it definitely isn't status quo. One, you're playing a unique opponent in Navy that offensively and defensively does some things that you don't see really throughout the rest of the year. And two, the logistics of playing a game in Ireland, flying over there, and obviously the time change and the adjustment for our players, and also for them to be able to experience what it's like to be in the country of Ireland. And many of them, like myself, have never been there. So it isn't a normal week. It isn't a normal game, but we are so excited for the opportunity.
We had a great opportunity, Coach, to meet numerous players in Dublin a few months ago, and we got to meet JD Bertrand. He's got a really interesting backstory with family ties to Dublin. His dad's got a rugby background. Talk to us about his leadership. I think he's going into his 5th year now. He's going to be a real key asset for you guys this season.
Yeah, JD's a 2-time captain that just is just the ultimate example of what we want our players to be on and off the field. And he's done an amazing job as a football player, but even a better job as a leader and a man of character. And so kudos to his parents for the way he's been raised, but he is such a valuable member of our team.
It's been two full seasons so far. What has been your most memorable or enjoyable moment as the head coach of Notre Dame so far?
I always say it's the next one, right? And there's a lot of memories that as you look back over the course of these year and a half that I'll cherish for a long time. But we have a lot more to continue to make. But most importantly, it's the time you get to spend with these guys. And it's about those relationships that I'll remember forever.
Talk to us about that season ahead just after Dublin. You're obviously looking at each week as it comes, but the games against Ohio State and USC really stand out. How do you manage expectation in terms of trying not just to look at it down the stretch, but look week on week as a head coach?
Yeah, I think we all know our schedule, and we know each season, but each week at Notre Dame presents a unique opportunity, unique challenge. And so the focus has to be the next one, right? Our focus right now is continuing to prepare for Navy and playing them on Saturday, but then we'll get to the next game of Tennessee State, and I think it's NC State and Central Michigan after that. And so we know our schedule, but we have to continue to remind ourselves nothing is more important than one coming up.
It's a really exciting time in Europe. A lot of people over here are talking about Sam Hartman coming in. It's a really unique setting for him to have his first game. This is a guy coming in from Wake Forest, and it's a really exciting time for you guys as you really elevate that offense to the next level.
Yeah, Sam's been great in his transition. He got here in January, and again, as another captain, just leader and has really gained the respect of his teammates. He is a very talented individual, very talented quarterback, but his leadership skills are tremendous. And so what a great platform for him to play his first game for Notre Dame in Dublin, Ireland.
Probably a lot different, Coach, from when you first got into coaching a few years ago now, just what the game is like over here. We have the opportunity now to watch on Sky Sports every Saturday night, which is pretty cool. But I'm sure you've seen just close by the growth of American football and the NFL in Europe. I'm just wondering, how impressed are you with the growth of the game over here, but also the growth of college football over here as well?
I just think it speaks to the respect and the interest in the game of American football. And we had a young man on our team last year that finished his senior season named Alex Ahrensberger. He was from Germany, and we have multiple kids from Canada. And so, this sport continues to grow, and the popularity across the entire world has been tremendous. And there's some great players in Europe. And so, as you see the sport grow in Europe, the sport grow in Ireland, you'll see some of those players continue to get recruited by American universities to come and play football and to hopefully continue to move on to the NFL. And so this is a game that I played for a long time, that I have a deep love and passion for, and I love to see it grow across the world.
Absolutely. And talk to us about the importance of tradition with Notre Dame. This Saturday, we'll actually see an open-air mass in Dublin Castle prior to the game. How important is it for yourself, your team, the staff, everybody coming over to maintain that Irish Catholic tradition and aspire on a day where you're so far from home, but it's going to feel like home as well?
Yeah, I don't know what better storyline there is for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish to play in Dublin, Ireland. And we're so excited to go and embrace that, and to embrace the city of Dublin, the country of Ireland. It is going to be what a wonderful opportunity. We really look forward to seeing the cool things that you're able to see in the city of Dublin, and also playing in a really exciting football game.
Would you like to come back very soon, or is it all just you're happy if you're told to play in Ireland again? You're just yourself?
Oh, I would love to. I know our players would. I would. But I also would like to get to Ireland just for a vacation, to really get a chance to experience it more than just with your focus being on football. I've heard so many great things about the country. And so I want to get back there to actually experience and vacation with my family.
That goes into the final question. Finally, the Aer Lingus College Football Classic is marketed worldwide as much more than the game. Will you get a chance to explore Dublin at all this weekend, or is it very much, once the game's over, it's Tennessee State and going out on the Sunday?
Yeah, that's the challenge with us having a game the following Saturday. After a game, we'll stay the night and we'll fly back early in the morning on Sunday. But as much as we can, we're going to try to experience Dublin. We're going to have our players go around the city a little bit and really get opportunity to see it. I know our focus has to be on this game, but I believe we can do them both, right? Focus on this upcoming game we have against Navy, but also get a chance to experience a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Well, Coach, thank you very much. As you say here, good meal, Margaret, and we'll see you in Dublin. Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Great to hear from Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame. It was also great to hear from Scott McCabe, who's a communications officer at the Aer Lingus College Football Classic. We've seen some great content online over the last few months building up to this game, and we had the chance to speak to Scott here ahead of the game this Saturday. Folks, as our college football coverage continues from the Aviva Stadium, we're delighted to be here ahead of the Aer Lingus College Football Classic this Saturday between Notre Dame and Navy. Delighted to be joined by Scott McCabe, Communications Officer for the Aer Lingus College Football Classic. Scott, good to see you, man.
Good to see you too, Michael. I can't believe we're here. We're at game week. We finally made it, and it is just surreal. And look, hopefully we get this weather come Saturday, but it's really good to be here, and thanks for having us on.
Well, touch wood. I mean, like, literally, you were saying off camera about last weekend, so hopefully it doesn't rain. It feels like, like that Northwestern Nebraska game was 5 minutes ago, and suddenly we're back here, and this is the game. Obviously, Notre Dame coming in, Navy coming in. Just generally, I mean, you are from Dublin. A lot of us aren't. I'll not be here just towards the weekend. What's the vibe like in the city this week? Because it seems to be a real buzz already before people fly in.
Yeah, there's been a buzz for a while now, and there's a lot of people, and even buddies of mine have been kind of saying, there's something going on. We know what's going on. Can you let us know? And it's trying to say to people, like, this is a competitive fixture, Michael. This is not just a preseason game. This is
week 0, game 0 of the college football season. We're literally launching it here in Dublin. And I think with these games, what we're doing here is literally cementing Dublin as the European capital of college football. And it's so exciting. But the city itself is really being activated. We're talking on Monday, and this is going to be off the hook this whole entire week. And I can see it even in our offices on Dame Street. That's going to be Notre Dame Street. So that's going to be really exciting. That's renamed. There's going to be a lot of action taking place there. And the city is ready. Well, I'm ready. I hope the city's ready, and I hope the Dubs are ready, because it's going to be off the charts.
Notre Dame Street, that's interesting. That's awesome. Yeah, I can't really, like, even for me, like, I'm biased because I live up north, and even people like saying to me like they're going to get the tree on Saturday morning. Like, I think it'll be great crack getting down. Really excited because it's obviously a very, very busy week for yourself. Talk to us. You mentioned there about Notre Dame Street. Like, talk to us about some of the events, I guess, that are happening this week. And
yeah, I mean, we've got plenty of events taking place. We've got the Notre Dame Pep Rally, which is taking place in the Tree Arena, and that's going to be a crazy event. That's a private ticketed event, but there's about over 8,000 fans attending that alone. And then we've got the Navy Pep Rally in Merrion Square, 4 to 5 p.m. on the Friday, and that's going to be really, really cool. What I'm really excited about, though, Michael, is the GIFT games.
Yeah.
The GIFT 2023, we're back again, and these are 6 really, really good teams coming over. 4 high school teams, then we've got the Irish Junior Wolfhounds and the NFL Academy coming over and playing. And look, in 2016 we had these games, and Kyle Hamilton, safety for the Baltimore Ravens, now played in these games. So that's really cool. I could go on for about half an hour, 45 minutes with all the cool events taking place. What I would recommend is checking out the College Football Ireland app, and that is all the game events on there. But there's so much taking place.
yeah, check it out. I downloaded it the other day. Like, literally everyone's on it, so do check it out if you're coming down this weekend, or if you're still on the fence, get down, because that pep rally in the Flea Arena sounds unbelievable, man.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Like, talk to us about what you do with the Lingus College Football Classic, because I know you've been, like, some of the content's been unbelievable this year, but just sort of seeing the progression of the college season starts last season, it ends, and then you got that gap where you then obviously promote this game, but go through not just things about Notre Dame and Navy, but college football itself. Talk to us about what you do.
Yeah, so my role as communications officer kind of encompasses a lot. So the key thing is digital content creation, and that's making engaging and also educational content, because let's be real, like, this is still a growing sport over here, and you know, we're trying to educate new people on it every day, and that's the element of the job that I really love, is getting new fans involved. I've had friends of mine saying, "Oh, I'm only into rugby, I'll only watch the GAR, or I only watch the hurling," and seeing them suddenly staying up late at 1 a.m. watching football, that's where I get my most enjoyment. So it's digital content creation, but then also working with our team in the US, doing the finer details of the games, working with our communications company, PR companies, making sure the messaging of these games is correct. We're getting things out there like ticket lotteries, like, you know, all these sales that are taking place. Like, it's making sure that everyone knows what's going on. So there's a bit of pressure on it, but we're getting there. But I really do enjoy it, and I appreciate the kind words on the content as well, because you know yourself, when it's the off season, that's when when no one's playing football, you know, that's when you got to dig deep and find the cool stories. And there's been a lot of cool stories about these two teams, especially Navy in particular. I don't know if you were aware of this, but they were involved with potentially the first ever American football uniform that was designed, William Maxwell. So really, really exciting stuff. And it's when you dig deep and you find these stories, that's pretty awesome.
I had no idea there was a game in Belfast in the 40s as well. It's mad, I can see the growth of it. Yeah, you're spot on. Like, in the depths of the off season, content is king, and it's been great to sort of track that, and looking forward to seeing what next year brings. We obviously were at the event with Grant Thornton. I think, was that back in April? I think it was
March. March. Yeah.
I mean, it's flipping.
It's a bit of a blur.
JD Bertram was there.
Yeah.
Loads of guys were there. Just talk to us about that event, because that was a great event and a great week for those guys in Ireland, but more so then, talk to us about, is there somebody that you'd like to look at in this Notre Dame team this week? I mean, I might have given it away with Bertrand there now, but they've got so many guys in that roster that I'll be happy just to watch it the weekend.
I'm the same as you. I'm happy to see both. I feel like I've covered both teams, and I feel like I know the guys inside out now. They're just so great. They're great guys. And what shocked me when they came over is that how professional they all were. I mean, these are still college. You know, they're still in college. They're not pro yet, but they're pro ready. And I think that's the key. These guys are ready to go to that next level. Who am I most excited about seeing? That's a really good question. Audric Estime, the running back for Notre Dame, he's really excited me at the moment, because I feel like he was in a committee backfield. It means he's got a couple running backs beside him, but now I feel like he can really unleash and showcase his talent. And I mean, when you're walking around with these guys, I'm 5'11". I think I'm tallish. I wouldn't say I'm tall, but I think I'm tallish.
You're taller than me.
If you want to be humbled, all you got to do is stand beside 6 foot. I don't even know how tall Nana Osafo-Mensah is for Notre Dame. And these guys, but they're all also genuine. And yeah, JD Bertrand, really excited to see him team captain for Notre Dame. So he's going to be really important on the day for them. But I mean, all the guys, Chris Tyree as well. That's another interesting one. Chris was formerly a running back. Now he's switched to wide receiver, and he's going to be a real gadget player. So I think he'll have a few exciting plays for Notre Dame.
Their running back room is really cool as well. And I guess for ones that are maybe coming into college football, Michael Mayer got drafted, tight end got drafted by the Raiders. So you'll see a lot of guys here like that may make it into the NFL. Skoronski for Northwestern got drafted. And the fun thing about Navy is like they can't really use the transfer portal, so they have a completely different thing. And for those guys, some guys have got drafted, obviously not as many as Notre Dame, but that's a real honor if they get drafted. And it's a big moment for them. But it's really what's unique about college football, that they can just come here, and that is their situation where they're in the Naval Academy.
Yeah, it's unique. Like, these are active midshipmen on duty. You know, they're not just, and that's what trying to educate people on. Like, these aren't just guys. While they're studying engineering and stuff like this, they are active, members of the U.S. military. So it's really important. But like you said, it's an interesting element. That is when with Navy, the football players, it's not like any other college because they can't just use the transfer portal, like you say. That doesn't mean that they can't get some very good players, including Roger Staubach,
Yes.
former Dallas Cowboys quarterback. I'm a Cowboys fan, so a little bias there. But some great players that come out of the Naval Academy, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how they get on, because they're not coming here just to get a pat in the back, and Brian Newberry, their head coach, has said that. He's like, we're coming over here and we're coming over to win. So it's an interesting one.
You mentioned Cal Hamilton in the high school games. We literally seen a guy in Phoenix in February in Harrison Butker kick the winning field goal for the Super Bowl. There's been guys that have played this game before that literally they can look back. And I remember when we spoke to Harrison, he recalls his time here so fondly, because for a lot of these guys, they've never left the country. And this is the first experience they have playing an actual game in a near 50,000 capacity stadium as well.
It is a lot for a lot of them. It is their first experience, and I think that's the cool thing when we've got the likes of Notre Dame coming over, we've got Georgia Tech coming over, and there's a couple of players, and we walk through that tunnel just over there, and they're coming into the stadium for the first time, and you see it's like when you see those clips online of like a kid going to a stadium for the first time and his dad brings him to the game and the kid's amazed. It's like these guys just go back again and they just look around and they're just in utter amazement about how amazing the stadium is, and they all say it. They cannot believe how close we are to the action here. And I think that's what makes it really unique, is that you're literally in touch and distance. You're going to hear all the tackles going in, and hopefully a few touchdown scores as well. But for a lot of these guys, it is their first time. And it's like our hashtag at College Football Ireland is much more than a game, because it is more than a game. It's an experience for not only the players but also all the fans coming over.
Oh, well, there's not a bad seat in this house. There's not,
literally not.
Like I feel like I'm almost on the field, so even standing here. Couple of things: FSU, Georgia Tech next year. FSU, for people wondering, of one of the best rosters in college football at the minute. Georgia Tech have got an Irishman, a Carryman, and Dave Shanahan as well. That's a really good game. Like that is, to pick both those colleges. Obviously, you're going to have a storyline every year, but those two really stick out for me.
Oh, it's a huge game. And this is the exciting thing. While we've got two great teams coming over this year, it's not like, that was fun while it lasted and da-da-da-da-da. No, it's coming back next year and it's going to be just as good. I like you said, two great teams as well. I mean, FSU ranked in the top 10 preseason polls as well. And from a storyline angle, like you said, David Shanahan, Kerry player. I mean,
he's buzzing. Like he is buzzing.
He is buzzing to get over, and I can absolutely see why. To play in front of his friends and family over here, it's going to be great. And I had the luxury of spending some time with the Georgia Tech guys, and they are really, really excited about this one. Some great players on that roster as well. Keep an eye on Miles Brooks, their safety this season. He's going to do some big things, and it's when you're talking to these guys and you can see the energy in them. They're ready to get going. But yeah, two really, really strong teams, and I mean, I'm unbiased because I've had links with the two of them. I've had the luxury of spending time with Georgia Tech players, but also we had War Chant over, warchant.com.
Yes.
And they came over, and the guys are all great there. And for those who don't know, War Chant have been covering Florida sports since like the mid-90s. So they're a real trusted voice. And hearing both sides and both angles, I mean, the excitement's building, and that's 2024. We haven't finished this game yet, and the excitement for next year is building. And that's what we want. We want to just build together something great. And like we're saying, we are really cementing ourselves as the European capital of college football, and it's really exciting to be a part of.
And you're seeing the game grow as a result of that as well, which is awesome to see. Yeah, the guys from Warchant loved it, like they were talking about.
Yeah.
They love the stadium as well. There's a 5-game commitment, and we'll not get into the rumours of who's going to play. I mean, we're just excited to see what happens. I guess for you as a fan, who would you like to see play? I personally, for me, and this is completely independent. I'm just saying, I just love seeing Notre Dame come back again. I know it's not going to happen every year, but I'd love to see that. I'd love to see Michigan play at some point, as long as Coach Harbour's there. But I think if you get any sort of big college, it would be awesome. Have you got a choice, or you just
have I got a choice? I'm really happy. Well, it's cool for me and Michael when I see what teams are coming over. And I'm like, okay, this is the team I'll be making content for the next couple of weeks or months coming ahead, you know. I was excited to see Georgia Tech because I saw them in 2016 here as a kid. And that was my first experience of an American football game, was actually in the stadium, seeing Harrison Butker. So seeing Georgia Tech coming back, that's kind of like a full circle type of thing and working on that. So that's the one that got me. I also have a couple of friends in Florida, so seeing FSU coming back as well, and they're sending me pictures of FSU gear, and I'm like, well, they're coming to Dublin, so you guys better come over too. That's exciting. I think I've always been a fan of Ezekiel Elliott for the Cowboys because he kind of got me into the sport, and I know he's kind of on the decline now, or we even say decline. Let's see how he gets on. He's with the Patriots now, so we'll leave him there. But Buckeyes, Ohio State, I've always kind of liked Ohio State, so it'd be cool if we have something down the line there. And LSU as well with Joe Burrow. They've had a lot of great players over the time, so we'll see. But we're doing very good over here with the teams we've got, and I'm very happy with them.
It's the team in London, Germany against the NFL. I think we all just feel fortunate that there's a game here, and it's awesome. I'll put a link for people wondering about 2024 if you want to register any interest in that FSU Georgia Tech game. Hopefully we'll be able to cover that as well, and we'll do whatever we can to help folks. Before I let you go, you're a Cowboys fan.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
the silence says it all.
What's your thoughts? Because like they could literally storm the NFC East, or like it could be an absolute disaster.
Could, but when Jalen Hurts is there, I mean, it's always kind of hard.
Daniel Jones as well.
Daniel Jones, Jalen Hurts. I mean, Dak. I think Dak's got to prove himself this year. I've been saying that for the past 4 or 5 years. But
do you think this is it this year? If he isn't,
I think it is. I think there's a good quarterback class coming out, and you got Caleb Williams from USC who's looking very good. I'm not saying Dallas would go for him straight away, but I like that. Deuce Vaughn for the Cowboys, running back to be drafted, 5'5", I think. Really exciting. One of the smallest players in the league, but I think he's going to be.
He looks so small when he runs as well.
He's going to be a real gadget player. But I mean, the cool thing here, what I'm hoping for, is that I get to see one of the guys, whether it's JD or Nana or Chris or Audric or whoever, and even on the Navy side of things, Daba Fofana, I need to mention him, fullback for Navy. He was their leading rusher last season. I think he's going to have a big game for Navy. But seeing one of these guys, if they could play for the Cowboys eventually and get drafted by the Cowboys, that would be like a real full circle, because supporting that team as well, that'd be pretty awesome.
There's a 1 in 32 chance. Obviously, I feel like we could talk for the next year for the Ox, so I think we'll leave it there. But obviously, want to wish you, the whole team at the Aer Lingus College Football Classic, the best this weekend, and obviously going forward. We appreciate the opportunity to be here and do this. Please God, let's do it next year for FSU Georgia Tech. collegefootballireland.com, at CFB Ireland on X.
Yeah.
You got it right. And at College Football Ireland on Instagram, and we'll drop the link for next year. But Scott, appreciate it, man.
Thank you very much.
Best luck this weekend.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, and thanks for having us. It's promised to be a great weekend.
Awesome to hear from Scott. I'll tell you what, let's hear, before we talk about Navy, we'll talk about it in a bit, let's hear from the Navy head coach, Brian Newberry, entering his first year as head coach. It was great, and we appreciate both Navy and Notre Dame giving us the opportunity to chat to the head coaches. I had a chat with Brian and Coach Newberry last week. Okay, so delighted to be joined by the head coach of the Navy Midshipmen. Well, first off, Brian Newberry. Brian, coach, welcome in. The game is this Saturday in Dublin. How are you feeling ahead of what's a really unique week, not just for yourself, but for Navy football?
Excited. Wonderful opportunity for our players and our staff and our fans. And excited about the opportunity to travel and get to Dublin, and obviously playing a program like Notre Dame is an awesome opportunity for us. So we're fired up, man.
Is the obvious? I was talking to Coach Freeman about this, and I sort of asked him, is the approach completely different for both teams? I guess it is different, but are you trying to look at this game as much as possible as a normal game that you'd have in week 0, week 1, or do you have to have that different approach because it's such a long way from home?
I think you got to treat it as normal as you can, from the schedule standpoint. We're gonna the week before get into the schedule of the week of, so our players get used to a rhythm. We changed some things in the way we practice during the course of the week. So I'll make sure that we're able to get into a flow and a routine, and we'll approach this game like we do any other game. The travel makes it a little bit unique, obviously, but we won't change the times that we practice and the way that we practice based on the trip.
Is it a little bit like training camp in the NFL where teams always say that it's almost like building that family atmosphere where you almost have that mini bye week, like just where you're in a little camp by yourselves and you get to actually spend some time with each other. For a lot of those guys that may never have left the country, coach, I mean, it gives them serious life skills that you can take down the stretch, not just this season, but next season and the years going ahead as well.
Yeah, I wish we were able to spend a little bit of time taking in Ireland and wish we were able to do a little bit more while we were over there. It's we're pretty time crunched. I think they've got some things scheduled for us, but it'd be nice to have a little more time, maybe stay afterwards or something like that. Get a bye after that, which would have been nice, but we got to get on back. School starts for our players the day that we leave. And but yeah, camp's been great. The connection piece for us is extremely important. And I think it's something, here at the academy that's unique and different. This brotherhood that we have here and the bonds that are created through a lot of things these guys go through together. It's pretty special and unique. And I think that's one thing that gives us an edge. I think maybe even more so in today's climate of college football with the transfer portal. Some of those things where most people's rosters are entirely different, year to year at this point. You can turn over as many as 40, 50 players. And, this place is unique in that regard because we don't deal with the portal. We can't take transfers here and we don't lose many kids in the portal. And so I think that connection piece that you mentioned, Michael, is really important. I think that's a force multiplier for us, and I think it's going to carry us a long ways.
Absolutely. And it sounds really interesting because you've so many, you're talking there about not having the opportunity for the transfer portal because of the nature of the college itself and the institution. There's such a real learning going on over here, coach, both in Ireland, in Europe as well, about the college game. And we've really started to develop an understanding and look at certain players. I guess for people that aren't aware, that are watching this, maybe they're coming into college football for the first time, it's going to be your first game. I mean, this is pretty cool for you for a start, but how has the last few weeks and months been like, just getting into the job at Navy and going ahead and just into the season?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a big adjustment, obviously, for me. I've been a defense coordinator for the majority of my career, and so transitioning into that role was a lot at first, and but things have started to slow down a little bit, starting to feel more and more comfortable in this role. There's some great coaches around me. We've got great young men in our program that bought into what we're doing, and so I'll tell you, I'm really enjoying it.
Talk to us about, I know you weren't the head coach the last time of this, but the last time you guys played each other, frankly, it goes down as a classic as far as I'm concerned. 3 points in it, 35-32. I think any fan in the stadium on Saturday would like to see a close game. I know you guys wouldn't. You'll want to win by as much as possible, but it shows you that this game this weekend can not just be competitive, but even from looking at some of the guys in your roster, you guys have not just a serious chance to win this weekend. Coach Freeman was talking positively to me about the way that you guys set up and play, but really making a good stretch down the season and winning as many games as possible.
Yeah, I'll take a close win. I don't need a big win by any stretch. No, yeah, the game last year was had a chance there at the end, and if it wasn't for kind of a debacle there late in the second half, where we gave up 14 points going into the half, that would have been a much closer game. Might even turned out a little bit different. But our guys, we have a ton of respect for Notre Dame. Great players. They got a great coaching staff. It's a great program, and but we respect everybody. Obviously, and certainly have a healthy amount of respect for them. But we don't fear Notre Dame. We don't put them up on a pedestal. Our players. It's not a charity game for us. We're not going over there to get a pat on the back. Our guys are going over there, with the expectation that if we do the things that we think we can do and control the things that we need to control, then we'll certainly have a chance to win the game.
Absolutely, and I'm sure it's going to be great fun to watch this weekend. The run game is really interesting for you guys. You got Hassan there as RB1 at the minute, Anton Hall Jr. That could really be an X factor on Saturday, and it's a really impressive offense in some key positions there, Coach. Yeah,
I mean, those are two good ones that you mentioned, and we've got 2 other running backs that feel really, really good about as well. One that didn't play last year, that was essentially a redshirt freshman. We don't redshirt guys who didn't play. Alex Texa, who's had a really, really good spring and fall camp, and then Dabo Fafana, another running back that played well against Notre Dame last year. So excited about our offense, the way that's evolved, and the direction that it's heading, and looking forward to seeing where we're at on August 26th.
You've had experience before with this defense. Are we expected to see a real hard-hitting, gutsy defensive performance in Dublin? I guess, coach, for the crowd that would watch that and maybe watch the NFL and not see a lot of college football. You've had some background, especially as a DC of this team. That was a hell of a season as well in that year that you had defensive wise as well.
Yeah, I expect to see more of the same. We've got a good nucleus back on defense, and PJ Volker's running that side of the football now. We've been together for a long time, and so the system's not going to change much. We tweak things from year to year, try to figure out a better way to do things, study other people, and see what we can add and trim off. But we're always going to be an aggressive style of defense, around here, and take a lot of pride in how hard our kids play. And we want to play harder than anybody else in the country, and feel like if we can do that, that kind of covers up some deficiencies and mistakes. And we're going to be multiple. Try to confuse people, primarily the quarterback and the whole line as much as we possibly can. Keep the offense coordinator guessing a little bit. At the end of the day, we do some unique things, and I think we're hard to prepare for, but it's not what you do; it's how you do it. And the style and what you do it with, and we take a lot of pride in the way we play defense around here, and that's not going to change.
2 or 3 quick ones for me to end. Firstly, is this your first time being in Europe, being in Ireland before? Have you been to Dublin before? And will you get a chance, coach, to actually see a bit of Dublin or see a bit of Ireland, because you're not playing again until the 9th, which is something that Notre Dame don't have that luxury the week after?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we're going back the next morning. But hopefully, get maybe a little time on Thursday or Friday to slip out. Hopefully if things go well, maybe Saturday night. I hear the Guinness over there is really, really good. A little different than it is here in the States. So who knows?
I can definitely confirm that it is 100%, and I'm not being sponsored by them saying it. It definitely is. Hopefully you get a bit of a chance on Saturday to maybe even take a walk around Dublin and sort of see the sights. But I know you guys will have a nice, relaxing time. Couple of last ones from me. Talk to me about Jacob Busic, a guy starting. He's going into the fall as a starter at defensive end. One of the best players in your roster. Very excited to see him, coach, go on the field on Saturday in the Aviva Stadium.
Yeah, Jacob Busic, one of our captains, 3-year starter for us. Big, long, physical kid. Been a really good player for us, and we're expecting big things for him this year.
Finally, I asked Coach Freeman this. I'll ask you this. Hopefully, the first year of you being a head coach for Navy in a long run of years, please God, to come. Are you up for coming back in the near future, or is this something that you just want to cherish and relish for what it is this year, and you're happy enough in the future?
No, I think it's awesome. I think it's, like I said, great for our players and great for our fans, and unique experience playing in a really, really cool venue. The logistics of it all is a little bit of a pain, but outside of that, no, it's awesome. I'm excited. We're all excited to get over there and play that game. And I'm sure maybe not next year, but a couple years down the road, we'd love to get back and do it again for sure.
Well, the very, very best luck this weekend, Coach. I know there's a lot of people. I mean, the game is completely sold out over here. People can't get a ticket. Everyone's talking about it. So we certainly not just wish you luck for the Saturday, but wish you luck for the entire college football season, the roads ahead. Enjoy your first season as head coach of Navy, and maybe chat to you in Dublin on Saturday.
Sounds good, Michael. Thank you.
And folks, we are delighted to partner up and be an affiliate of Home Field Apparel this year. If you use code Ireland when you go to Home Field, the address is below, you get 15% off your first order. Now, we don't have our gear here yet, but there has been gear sent through. And can I just say, that's because of our postage system, because I'm in the north. However, some of that stuff, and I'll put it at the bottom, some of that stuff looks unreal, isn't it? Did you pick up with it?
I think me and Dara, you said we picked the exact same.
Yeah, I got a Colorado 1990 national champions tee, But we will be running the giveaway. Just check it for our college football coverage. Do check out the next few weeks. We appreciate home field. I personally think home field's coverage, like in terms of like their actual shirts, hoodies, are the best.
It's top quality stuff.
Top notch.
I when you sent me the link to have a look at them, I couldn't believe it was hard to pick. Just a couple.
How did they pull this one off?
Yeah.
Code Ireland 15% off. So basically, folks, I guess looking at this, as we look ahead to the game on Saturday, it would be amiss of us because we're obviously going to go into this in week 1 properly next week. We look at college football in general, but we will focus heavily on this game this week. One thing that we should talk about is college realignment, and I think even for a general football fan, this has been everywhere over the last few weeks. And if you're not sure what that means, there are certain divisions, and colleges have decided to leave certain divisions and move to different divisions. And we'll look at it in more detail next week. But I guess just first off, it's been a wee bit mad, hasn't it? It started like with one college. I think it was Colorado saying they were going to leave, and then it went straight, man.
It's been a turbulent off season, and dating back to last off season as well. It's just been all over the place. It's the sort of thing that's going to be in flux for a while. It will eventually get smoothed out, but for now, I mean, the Pac-12's in massive trouble. It's now they've got 4 teams left, and 2 of those teams are waiting on to see what the other 2 teams do. I think the days of the Power 5 might be truly over now, and we're looking at Power 3 or 4 of
Power 60
top conferences. That's probably what we're going to end up with, to tell you the truth. But it's really, really strange. So there's 16 teams joining the Big 12, and the annoying thing is that all the conferences have the number of the teams in it, and the numbers are never true. It's always outdated names. So listen, it's the sort of thing that's going to have to be hashed out. I think Notre Dame are the most interesting team in terms of realignment. They obviously are an independent team, pride themselves on being independent, but now might be forced to join a conference if they want to have any chance of making the playoff.
And it's very beneficial for us because if you have Sky Sports in Ireland or the UK, you can watch the Notre Dame home games, which is a big benefit for us, and I think it's helped a lot of people get into college football a lot more. Please God, that continues. Daire mentioned there about realignment. I mean, look, realignment of the playoff for a start. The thing that really annoyed me over the years was the fact that only 4 teams could get to a playoff. And it wasn't really like, it was almost, you were picking the teams almost. Could you imagine that happening in the GAA, the All-Ireland? Oh, well, sure, we'll pick Kerry and Dublin. That couldn't happen. So I guess for me, that's obviously this game here and the series of games, but more so the actual growth of this and the fact there's going to be a proper play-in tournament at the end of the year. That's why we're starting this sort of this sort of content and trying to take it to the next level.
Well, first off, I wouldn't mind if Kerry got picked to make the All-Ireland semi-final every year. That would be one extra trip up to Dublin, hopefully, and an extra chance of getting to the All-Ireland. But I think, that this whole idea of the playoff is going to be absolutely thrown into the air now, and it's going to have to, all the commissioners of all the conferences are going to have to come together and decide what do we do, because if you don't know, the Power 5, if you win the conference championship or if you're the highest ranked team of any Power 5 conference, you get an automatic go into the playoff. But now that there's going to be, well, we don't know with the Pac-12, but as it stands, it looks like there's not going to be a Pac-12 after this year. That will only make 4, which means they have to completely fix everything up, and we don't know what that's going to do. It throws everything basically up into the air, and it's going to be amazing to see how they pull this out, because I wouldn't want to be in charge of any of this sort of stuff. It's way too confusing, especially if you're just getting into the sport. Like, you're seeing, okay, this team is playing here, but then they're going to move away next year and they have to play completely different teams. So I'm looking forward to it, though. It'll make for interesting podcasts for the year to come.
I think having a realignment and having a 12-team playoff is fantastic, because at that time of year, it's Christmas, everyone's already in the bowl games, you're sitting there wrecked from eating about 15 days worth of turkey. Playoff, and I'm being serious, like, late night college football when you're actually off work, I think it'll be brilliant, and it'll bring a different angle to this, and you almost feel like they could have that playoff or that playoff final the week before the Super Bowl or something. They could just drag it out more, which would be awesome. I mean, very quickly on realignment, I seen Chip Kelly was talking about having just a massive division and just having like random games. That could literally be the way forward, but I guess we'll see.
I mean, it's sort of similar to the way European football works. It's as if Manchester United said, we don't want to play in the Premier League anymore.
Super League,
let's move over here. Super League is the sort of thing that college football is trying to be floating out. It's probably the situation that makes the most sense at the minute, but it's hard to know. There's traditions. It's a traditional sport, and it's hard to please everyone in a sport that has 130 teams.
We will see. This next segment where we look at a team each or talk about a different storyline, we'll go into more detail next week as we get to week 1 and everyone's playing. It's brought to you by Budweiser. Budweiser, massive thanks to them. Massive members only tailgate, completely sold out this week. On Saturday, details to members if you signed up via email. If you've signed up for our competition, the winner has been announced by now, but a big thanks to Budweiser for giving away 2 premium tickets in this section for the game on Saturday. We really appreciate that, folks, and a big shout out to Budweiser. I guess if we look at a topic each, one of the biggest ones for me, primarily looking at the NFL, is looking at Michigan. And people wondering if you're not too much into college football, Jim Harbaugh is the Michigan head coach, and he has been flirting with different teams for the last 2 or 3 years, and it feels like every summer now it's the summer of Harbaugh. Will he stay in Michigan? Will he go in Michigan? It seems to be like negotiation genius where oh sure, I'll chat to them ones, I'll up the salary by 10 or 20%. But the reality is, this is the best Michigan team that they've had in years. They've retained 80% of the starters from last season. This should go down the stretch and get to November-ish and have that opportunity. Their schedule is very, very favourable. And you'd be looking at Michigan being anywhere from maybe 4th to 10th in the rankings. And if they get to November and have a very good record, I think they could make that 4th spot for the playoff. You're looking at, is it Ohio State?
No, Alabama and Texas. Yeah. Listen, it's I think in college football, it's sort of a sport where storylines develop as the year goes by. You know, we've seen LSU and Joe Burrow a few years ago, Tennessee last year as an example. So it's hard to know at this time of year who's going to crop up. So I was sort of thinking for my storyline, I was going to go nearly earlier in the year, which is a game in a few weeks' time. It's Alabama versus Texas, and the stakes in this game are pretty big. This is the last year of the 14 playoff, as you were saying, and listen, the margin for error, the beauty of the 14 playoffs is that the margin for error is so low at the start of the year. Alabama, the odds are stacked against them in an SEC now that is Georgia just demolishing everyone around them. So Alabama really can't afford a second loss on the schedule earlier in the year against Texas. For the Texas side of things, they're joining Alabama's conference next year, and what a statement that would be to go in to Tuscaloosa, take down Alabama in the second game of the year, and then join them, cozy up next to next year in the SEC. So that's what I'm looking out for. I'm really looking forward to that one in a few weeks' time.
If anybody wants to send us to Tuscaloosa, feel free to hit us up. Colorado, am I correct?
Yes, I picked Colorado, and it basically encapsulated like the early part of the off season this year, where Colorado, I believe, had 1-11 last year. Horrible season. Now, I looked at actually their strength of schedule. It was the 3rd hardest in all the college football, so out of 130 teams. But 1-11, not good enough. They haven't had a proper winning season since, I believe, 2016. They had a winning season in 2020, but it was a shortened COVID year. So can you really count that? Maybe if you're a Colorado fan, you would. But to get to the point, Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, has arrived. And if you look at their incomings, I guess, and outgoings, they have taken the transfer portal to a whole new level. 50 players in, 56 out.
He literally walked in and told people,
You're not
going to go on.
We don't need you.
It's Jose Mourinho level stuff where you do as I say or you're out the door. And it was so funny because like you're watching those interviews and you're like, well, is he going to be serious about this? And then you see 2 weeks later, 56 players gone, 50 players in, and it's going to be really interesting because not only did they get the best transfer player in, they got the best recruited player in 2022, Travis Hunter, and he's a cornerback, but he's good enough to where he's also going to be playing wide receiver for them. And so according to all reports, he's been dominant on both sides of the ball in training. So I'd love to know how that relationship between him and the quarterback works out, where one time he'll be picking him off and one time he'll be making it.
They'd be wrecked.
But it's so amazing because you get a personality like Deion Sanders in there. They're going to be going to a new conference next year in the Big 12, which will be bigger than the Big 12 next year, which is if there's a number in the conference, it's the wrong number. It's basically rule you have to follow. But I'm really, really looking forward to them this year. They have a really tough schedule. I believe they play 5 or 6 ranked teams early in the year. But you know, I'd say they're good enough to get probably about 6 wins and probably into a bowl game this year is what it looks like to me.
That's probably the max. I mean, they're almost going to be a bit like Chelsea with Todd Bowley, just getting out whoever they can. I guess the one thing I will say,
except it might work for Colorado.
This is it. I mean, we're both Broncos fans, so like obviously like the only college games I've been to outside of here, I went to Boulder twice. They're mad.
Yeah,
they literally fire Buffalo on the field before the game. So I'm interested to see how that's going to go. As we said previously, we're presented by Madden NFL 24. If you comment, like, share this YouTube video, comment hashtag Madden24, you have a chance of winning a game, PS5 or Xbox. Please do so, and we will let the winner know on YouTube by the end of the day after this game on Saturday. Coming up now, we've got the Athletic College Football Insider and the NBC Sports college football analyst, Nicole Auerbach, joining us. Me and Colin had a chance to chat to Nicole the other day. Yeah. Fantastic insight, not just in this game on Saturday, but also in realignment. So stick with us on the PFI College Football Show. As we look ahead to Notre Dame Navy this weekend in the Aviva Stadium, we are delighted to welcome Nicole Auerbach to Pro Football Ireland on the first week of our dedicated college football coverage. Nicole is a senior writer at The Athletic, and this season she is the new lead college football insider for NBC Sports, who will also carry the Notre Dame Navy game from the Aviva Stadium in Dublin this weekend. Nicole, first off, a warm welcome. How are you doing?
I am doing great. It's been a crazy last month or so with realignment and everything across college football. So very excited to talk about a game and actual football getting underway.
It's sort of surreal that it's this weekend. It's a little scary, but in a good way. Obviously, congratulations on the role with NBC, and it's great for us, Nicole, because we can see in Ireland and in the UK we get obviously all the Notre Dame games. So looking forward to seeing that coverage throughout the year. Have you ever been to Ireland before?
I have not. I feel like my entire Instagram feed has gone in recent years, but I have not made it out yet.
Look, now that we know if you've been or not, I guess the first question we wanted to ask was the whole concept of a Navy football team, an Army football team, and an Air Force football team it's very strange, from an outsider's perspective. So can you give us a bit of context to how that actually works?
Yes, I can understand that is a little bit strange as well. So they're the service academies and they have major college sports. So the football teams obviously are made up of, midshipmen and cadets, and they are, they're dealing with all of the restraints and the schedules and everything from a conditioning standpoint and workout standpoint that everyone else on those bases is as well. So, they're going through all their military training and they're in all of the courses and everything that they have to do, but they're also playing football again against some of the best teams in the country. So they're always going to be at a disadvantage because of the size and the just restrictions that they have to, make a football team out of athletes that can also, that they can hack it at the Naval Academy or at West Point. And it's really challenging. And it's also challenging, especially in this climate these days with name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal, because they really can't use either of those things as recruiting tools. They're able to lose players to the transfer portal, but they're not really able to bring anyone in because you would essentially have to start over. So you could, I suppose, take someone who maybe finished their freshman year somewhere else and were able to get in academically to one of the service academies and go from there. But you're essentially starting over in your programming. So it's just really hard to do it in the way that any other major college football program does it. And they can't do NIL deals. So they can't do endorsements. They can't do sponsorships. They can't put that money in their pocket as well. So those are two ways that college football programs build, in addition to recruiting out of high school, which service academies also face different restrictions. Again, the academic component, the military service component. And a lot of times, again, you're looking at different body types. You're looking at undersized players. So you have a lot of quarterbacks that are essentially being recruited as running backs everywhere else, but they get to play quarterback at a service academy school with the triple option. So all of the service academies have triple option principles because that does give them an advantage, right? If you're thinking about a different type of scheme that no one else sees regularly, and you can do with offensive linemen who are going to be undersized based on what they have to do from a conditioning standpoint for the service academies, it gives you an option. And so I didn't even mean that as a pun, but it does give you an option and a way to stay in these games. So everyone's got their wrinkles and their tweaks about exactly how they run the option, but it has served for a long time as a scheme and a system for these service academies to stay in games when they do play anyone else really in college football. And then certainly, from the American perspective, the Army-Navy game is one of the biggest games of the year. It's a standalone game. It's played after the regular season ends for everybody else. It is a big deal, and I've covered that game before, and it is amazing. It really is a bucket list type of environment and game itself, and it means so much to those schools. Obviously they're trying to win all their games, but that is the one that matters quite a big deal. For anyone who's familiar with like the biggest college rivalries like Ohio State, Michigan, They get gold pants, they get mementos. The first thing anyone asks someone who's played in that game is what the record is in that game, and it's the same way for the Army-Navy game, which is played at the end of the year. So those games are usually very competitive, right? Because they are dealing with the same constraints on their roster construction. But Army's been getting the better of Navy recently. Navy had a 14-year streak, and it's been 5 of 7 for the Black Knights lately.
I think it's really important, Nicole, that you explain that, because we've such a growing NFL scheme, not just here in Ireland, but across Europe, obviously. And that's something that was quite not controversial in 2008, whenever London got its first regular season game. And I think if you told somebody in 2008 that we'd have 3 NFL games in London, 2 in Germany in 1 year, back then people would have laughed. Now we're looking at it with college football, and there's a 5-year commitment here. We had the Nebraska Northwestern game, which as a neutral last year was fantastic to watch, and it was great in week 0. There are whispers from people that we've spoke to outside of any agreement here with any sponsor folks. I've just heard generally from people talking when I was in Munich last year, Nicole, that they'd love to have a college football game in Germany at some point in the future. Just your thoughts as someone that covers the sport. Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think maybe when you've such a condensed season, it's obviously completely different to taking an NFL team over when you got far more games and fans do miss out? Just sort of your thoughts.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And I think that the way that it's been used probably makes the most sense with week 0, because it allows those teams to start their practices earlier, and it gives you an extra, idle week, and kind of you can structure the schedule better on the back end, so that it hopefully any jet lag or any issues from the travel could be mitigated after you play. There was a college basketball game last year between Michigan and Kentucky in the middle of the season. That did not make any sense to me. I understand it on the front end, and I think that's the best place for it because of all of the other potential implications. Although, college football is moving in a direction now that you're going to have 4 different teams in the Big Ten that are on the West Coast that are going to be playing East Coast teams. So you definitely are moving in a direction where there are longer trips for some of these athletes and these teams across the board in general. But I do think, an overseas trip and kind of making all the other pieces of that make it special about the sightseeing and learning about the culture, and then opportunities for fans. If you're a Notre Dame fan and you do want to go to Ireland, it's a great opportunity to do both. I think you don't want to do it too frequently, or maybe with the same schools all the time, just because, maybe you don't have that interest from the fans, or the expense is too much. But I do like the idea of sprinkling in there for week 0 and providing that opportunity. And every team that does these foreign trips, whether it's football, whether it's men's basketball, they always rave about them, right? They always enjoy the part where they get to explore the other culture and the other, city, town, country, whatever it ends up being. So I would love to see it continue, and just as long as it's not, just kind of smack dab in the middle of the season, and then it impacts kind of other games that, maybe matter more for, conference schedule or CFP implications or something like that. But I think these one-off kind of showcase events, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and in the last sentence there, you did mention the college football playoff, and it's next year that's going to get thrown up into a whole different stratosphere with the expansion of the playoff, but also the collapse, I guess, of the Pac-12, which was one of the Power 5 conferences, which was guaranteed a spot in there, and then now we're not going to see it. So do you have any idea or any theories or anything to how that might develop with the collapse or the demise of the Pac-12, if you want to put it that way?
Yeah, that's the big question. And there was an already regularly scheduled CFP meeting with the commissioners at the end of the month, and I think they're going to start tackling some of that. We've already heard from SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey, one of the most influential voices in college sports, saying that he would like them to reconsider the format. I think they're also going to look at the revenue distribution and the way that works, because if there's more at large spots and fewer power conferences, you already knew that the Big Ten and the SEC were going to get the most bids. If you look at it historically, they were going to send the most teams when you open this thing up to a 12-team model. But if you don't have a Power 5 and a Pac-12 as conferences, and it does adjust the amount of spots and who's getting them, I do think you're going to continue to see the Big Ten and the SEC gobble up even more of that space. So what does that look like in terms of how revenue is split? Because In the previous model, the current model, all the Power 5 leagues split it evenly. But you have different sized leagues. So if the Big Ten is dividing their share by 18, that's different than the ACC sharing theirs by 14. So the Big Ten schools are making less. But also, if the Big Ten is sending more teams and they're advancing more teams, maybe they should get more money, like the way the NCAA tournament works. So I think that those are going to be debates that come about, and also just the model itself, because the way that they agreed upon it last year was 6 highest-ranked conference champions, which is essentially the Power 5 champions, plus 1 group of 5, and then 6 at-larges. So I think at the very least you could see an argument for 5 AQs essentially for the conference champions, and then 7 at-larges, or you could see a push for even more at-larges. But I think that those are going to be conversations that get debated starting at the end of this month, and I think it's fair to open those conversations up with a difference in the amount of FBS conferences, perhaps, and also just, the destruction of a power conference, that was part of the reason that they landed on the 6-and-6 model in the first place. So I do think they should revisit it, and I think they will.
And I guess, to go back to, the event that we're going to be experiencing on the upcoming Saturday, in doing everything and looking anything up about Notre Dame, the one name that shows up every single time you type in Notre Dame into Google, YouTube, whatever, it's Sam Hartman.
Yes.
And, how big of a factor will he be? I mean, he's been arguably one of the top kind of 5 quarterbacks in college football the last 2 or 3 years now. So I just want to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, he's massive, and he's the face of the program right now, and he's going to be this season. It's going to be his program, and this was such an interesting transfer because Sam Hartman going into the portal in the first place was a big deal and understandable. You heard from Wake Forest saying we understand what he's trying to do. He got his degree, and he's trying to show that he can be a quarterback in a different system and get drafted at the next level. And that's exactly what happened here. He's going to be able to profit from NIL. He's also going to be able to show in this new offense what he's capable of. And I think that makes all the sense in the world, but it's also like a ready-made, super experienced Power 5 quarterback coming in for Notre Dame. And this has been a position that they've dealt with a lot of injuries and a lot of bad luck over the years. So it definitely, I think, heightens the expectations. You also look at the schedule, and there's challenging games on this schedule, but you've got to feel better about it as long as you've got Sam Hartman and as long as he's able to stay healthy. But he has been one of the best quarterbacks in the country the last few years. And some of that got overlooked because it was Wake Forest, right? They're not a football powerhouse, but he's been a huge part of them elevating themselves as a program to be a real factor in the ACC. Still, some of that is, okay, well, this is the scheme and the slow mesh and the way that Dave Clawson runs this offense. So I think he has a lot to prove this year, in addition to what Notre Dame needs to prove coming off a season where they lost some games that they really shouldn't have.
I would go as far as saying, just in regards to the question before last, when he mentioned the playoff expansion, I think the growth of the game here, in terms of the NFL and college, that plus the expansion of the playoff has led us to start a college branch of this as well, because it's just, I think it's going to turn it internationally into a huge thing. You mentioned Hartman there, Nicole. We had a chance to meet JD Bertrand a few months ago. Is there anybody outside Sam Hartman on that field on Saturday that you could see playing in the NFL in a couple of years? Like, we've seen Peter Skronsky play for Northwestern last year, and he was so impressive even when he came over for his first practice on the Thursday in Dublin.
Yeah, I think that there's usually some guys getting on people's radars who are just in part because it's week 0. We're so starved for football. But also Peter Skronsky was such a great talent, and it was honestly kind of a shame that Northwestern was not able to win games despite having such a talented player on the field. I'm going to give you some names of some other tackles as well. Joe Alt is a potential top 15 pick. I will also couch this. I asked my buddy Mike Golick Jr. for some names because I have not thought about pre-draft process and draft prep at all. So of course he's going to give me offensive linemen and guys in the trenches, but Joe Alt and Blake Fisher are really, really talented, and they are going to anchor Notre Dame's offense, left tackle, right tackle, and they're going to have, well, Joe Alt for sure will have a good chance to be maybe a top 15 pick in the NFL, but Blake Fisher also with a really strong season will be up there as well. And there's been a lot of questions about the defensive line, but not the offensive tackles. They're going to be in really good hands as well. And again, if we're looking at like pure NFL talent, like those are the two guys to probably start that with. I think there's going to be some defensive players in general who could play themselves into that. from Notre Dame. But I think that, like, if you're looking for sure things, guys you're going to want to pay attention to, and you already like offensive linemen, these are your guys.
And, I guess going into what we can kind of expect from the game, I guess, Navy it's a strange kind of team, like it's not a regular program as we previously discussed. And, I was just wondering, with the triple option, all those kind of things, new head coach, everything like that, what can we expect, I guess, from them? Like, is it going to be an absolute blowout, or is it going to be a close game?
It's even in games where Navy seems to be overmatched, it is such a challenge to go up against the triple option and to have to adjust all of your practices and preparation for that these games are always closer than you would think. Sometimes there are blowouts, but it's really, even if, again, talent-wise on paper, it looks like these two teams should be overmatched, there are always these games with Army and Navy. There was famously a game a few years back, Oklahoma nearly lost to Army in like double overtime, and it was not even on television. It was like a pay-per-view channel, and everyone was like watching some guy streaming himself, like watching it off of his foot on Periscope. It was crazy. But so this happens, that there are teams and games that are unexpectedly close. So I'm not saying that this one might be that, but I'm saying don't just necessarily assume that Notre Dame will take care of business, even though Navy has been down the last few years. It's part of the reason that there was a coaching change. Ken Niumatalolo was part of this program for a quarter of a century, and he is out at the end of the year. And then they bring in Brian Newberry, promote him from defensive coordinator. He had a lot of support internally with the program, but right, they did not. They're coming off a rough year, another 4-8 season, and I think that the key is going to be, what does this offense look like? Which of those triple option principles are there, and then how do you tweak it a little bit? And you've got a new offensive coordinator in Grant Chestnut from Kennesaw State. So there will be triple option principles in what they're doing, but maybe you're going to see the quarterback line up in shotgun from time to time. Maybe you'll see more tight end usage. Like, there will be different tweaks, but yes, it will still be that same principle of looking to get guys in space where Notre Dame is not used to seeing them. There's also been changes to the blocking rules, which have impacted the option schools. It makes it harder for them to block the way that they always have, which is part of the challenge of playing them, is like the cut blocks. So that could also impact what Navy's able to do illegally in this game as well. So there's a lot of questions. Absolutely. Brand new coach, first game, and Notre Dame's a team that we're going to be thinking about for the New Year's Six Bowls, maybe if all things go right, a college football playoff. So it's definitely an uphill challenge for them. But again, no one likes to prepare. No one likes to play Navy. Notre Dame does it every year because it's tradition. It's important to them. But it's always like the worst team to have to prepare for and practice for because you don't play that way. So you never really know. So I'm hopeful it'll at least be close and it'll be competitive. We'll learn something about both teams. But certainly, I mean, on paper, these two teams are headed in different directions, and one of them has a lot more questions really about where they are in the first year under head coach.
Two quick questions to end, Nicole, just in regards to what you said about Notre Dame there. Like, last year, they win 9 games, but they lose against Marshall, albeit they had a 9-4 record in the weaker spots, and they lose to Sanford as well. Like, look, I was impressed whenever I spoke to Marcus Freeman, but I guess the proof's going to be in the pudding. I'm just sort of wondering what your general outlook will be on them this year. They've got some massive games down the stretch.
Yeah, it's a big schedule. It's a really challenging schedule because you've got Ohio State, Clemson, and USC on that schedule, and all three of those teams are going to be good this year. I think what success for Notre Dame this year is to win the games you're supposed to, right? Because the games you just mentioned are games they should have won last year. And those are the games that if you're Notre Dame, you always take care of business. So you need to take care of business in the take care of business games. And then I think you need to win one of those 3 big games. And I think you'll certainly be in contention for New Year's Six Bowl. And then depending on how the rest of the country looks, you might be in contention for a CFP spot. This is the last year of a 4-team CFP, which does make it harder. You don't have as much wiggle room to get there. But a lot of this is going to come down to defensive line play and the wide receivers. And if they're able to get production and be reliable, and if the pass rush is CFP caliber, they will be in the mix, and they should be able to at least get one of those 3 games. But those are monster games. Those are all teams that could win their conferences and might be favored to win their conference, depending on who you talk to, about Michigan and Ohio State and Clemson, about Florida State. So I think success is 10 wins, and it's getting one of those 3 games. And again, I think it's keeping Sam Hartman healthy is going to be a huge factor here. But really, it's about not losing the games that you shouldn't lose.
And I guess our final question for you before we leave you go is, who is your national champion and who is going to be your TCU kind of big surprise team this year?
Okay, so I would be very tempted to take Georgia, but a three-peat is so hard, and we haven't seen their quarterback play. So I'm going to make a homer pick. I went to the University of Michigan, so I'm going to take Michigan. They're the number 2 team in the preseason. I do think this is Jim Harbaugh's best team on paper. Obviously, they have to get over the hump of actually winning a game in the CFP, but they've beaten Ohio State twice in a row. They have been good enough to get to the CFP. I think we're going to see J.J. McCarthy stretch the field, develop a vertical passing game better than it's been and more effective, and actually be able to win games the way that you need to against those top teams. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia proves me wrong here either. I don't know if we're going to get someone that's like totally out of the blue like TCU. A lot of things needed to go right for them to have the type of season that they did. But a lot of the dark horse teams that a lot of people have mentioned, I think, are my dark horses in terms of Florida State and Penn State. Penn State's got an uphill battle, right? Because they would have to go through Michigan and Ohio State to do this. But if they do, they'll be in the CFP, certainly, because of the caliber of opponents. I think my overall dark horse would be someone in the Pac-12 that is not USC. They were so close to making it last year, but there's so many good quarterbacks in this conference. Washington should be really good. Utah, if Cam Rising is close to healthy, will be good. Oregon State is certainly a dark horse pick. They've got a lot of talent in that league. So I'll say Washington because I just don't think they're getting enough attention this offseason. Michael Penix Jr. could be a Heisman contender. And there's been a lot of buzz about USC, and there's been a buzz about Oregon, and there's a lot of reasons to be excited about those teams. So I'll go a little bit more off the radar. Even though Washington is obviously a top 15 team heading into the season, I don't think people are talking about them in terms of the CFP. So I'll cheat and say them, even though they're nowhere close to what TCU was heading into the season.
I love it. And Nicole, just for people wondering or watching, listening to this, it's been a crazy few weeks for you, and we massively appreciate you taking the time and listening to us and answering those questions, not just for us, but for the people that are listening to this and couldn't get a ticket for this weekend because there's 40,000 people flying over from America for this game. Don't just want to wish you the best of luck for your coverage this weekend, but for your coverage in NBC and obviously with the Athletic during the season. We will drop your socials in the bio. And you mentioned Florida State there. Let's chat again before the Florida State Georgia Tech game in Dublin next year. But thank you so much for coming on, and enjoy the season, Nicole.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Enjoy the game.
Hey, aloha, everybody. This is Jeff Reinebold. We are here with the Jeff Reinebold Show, a special edition, and we're going to focus on something that we don't talk quite enough about, and that's college football. Because, ladies and gentlemen, college football is coming to the Emerald Isle, and not just any college football. We're talking about one of the preeminent programs in U.S. college football, one of the most historic programs in U.S. college football, to face an ancient rival, right? We're talking about the University of Notre Dame against the Naval Academy midshipmen. Now, this rivalry goes back to the 40s when Navy was a national power and Notre Dame was a national power, and they would meet the Army-Navy game, the Army-Notre Dame game, and the Navy-Notre Dame game were some of the biggest games in the 40s and 50s. Notre Dame continued to be one of the preeminent programs throughout the 60s, the 70s, the Air Parsegian era, where they're winning national championships. They got Terry Hanratty, they got Joe Theismann, they got Tom Clements, they got you talk about Heisman Trophy winners, Tim Brown, one of the biggest college names in college sports, any sport, is Notre Dame football. And then Navy struggles. During the Vietnam era, nobody wants to go to the Navy. Navy has Roger Staubach wins the Heisman Trophy at Navy. Joe Bellino wins the Heisman Trophy at Navy in the 50s, early 60s, and then they drop off the cliff. And then Paul Johnson brings the option to Annapolis, and the dynamic changes. And one stretch of time, one 5-year period, under my good friend, right? My good friend at the Naval Academy, right, is the head coach, and they beat Notre Dame 3 out of 5 years straight, right? And when you think about that, Navy, which has all the restrictions of these kids don't go to Navy to get to the National Football League. As a matter of fact, they go to Navy to serve their country, to be officers and midshipmen and, you know, pilots and all the other things you learn to do at a military academy. But they want to play Division I college football, and for them, with a bunch, and I'm going to tell you the story. Kenny Niumatalolo is the guy I'm talking about. Kenny was the head coach at Navy. In 2017, he says to me, he calls me, he says, Jeff, I know you're from South Bend. We're playing Army. I want you to come and be on the sidelines and be in the locker room with our team, right? And Michael, my wife and I go and meet the team in Michigan City the night before the game. And we walk into the room, and these are the most impressive kids you've ever seen. I mean, impressive, but they all look like me. I mean, they are small, and I'm thinking to myself, they are going to get murdered, right? We get on the bus the next morning. We drive from Michigan City to South Bend, Indiana. It's about a 35-minute drive. We drive into the stadium. It's a November cold day. These kids file off the bus. There it is, Notre Dame Stadium, the most iconic stadium in the United States, in my opinion, right? And touchdown Jesus in one end zone. We file in, the kids are getting taped. And again, I'm looking at them and I'm saying, somebody better call their mothers and just say, thank you for sending your son to service, because we lost him today. I mean, it's like, I'm just thinking they're going to get slaughtered, right? And Notre Dame comes in, and this is a Notre Dame team that has numerous first-round draft choices, numerous, outland. I mean, their offensive line was picked the best offensive line in America, all this stuff. Michael, they came out of the tunnel, right? And I looked at Kenny, and I said, are you kidding me? And he goes, just watch. And those guys play so hard and such, they had a gimmick offense. They had the option offense. And they take Notre Dame to the fourth quarter, and they run a halfback option pass with about 3 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. And the guy throws it about a foot short, or they beat Notre Dame for the fourth time in 6 years, right? This is a rivalry that is like no other. And you talk to Notre Dame players, and they say the teams they hate to play the most are the service academies, because it doesn't matter. They never give up. They're gonna play as hard as they can for 60 minutes. They're gonna hit you every day. They run that crazy option offense. I just think it's going to be a tremendous game in Ireland. And for Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, Mike, the Fighting Irish. I grew up, I didn't grow up, I would say this. I went to junior high and high school in South Bend, right? Our house was so close to the stadium on Saturday morning that when Notre Dame would score a touchdown, you could walk out of the house and hear the band play and hear the crowd, right? And I sold programs at the games as a kid, as a 12-year-old kid, in my junior high years, 12 and 13. I sold programs at the game. They give you 50 programs in the morning. As soon as you sold them, you came back and you gave them the money, right? And I would sneak into the game. I'd sell my programs first. And then I'd hide from the ushers in the bowels of old Notre Dame Stadium. And then I'd come out into the stadium with the team. Because in the locker room at Notre Dame, you go down this tunnel, and it's a very, very narrow loop. All right. And you've seen it on some of the TV shows about Notre Dame and the Rudy story and all that stuff. But let me just tell you, as the team comes in, there's no room in the tunnel, right? The team's like shoulder to shoulder, right? And so I would get in with the players, and the players didn't know who I was. I was just some kid, right? and I would come out. So I've entered into that stadium to thunderous applause. No rhythm. And I'm going to tell you something. It's still, and I'm not a Notre Dame fan and never was. I get into the stadium, sneak into the stadium, just keep moving so I didn't get popped from, because there's no seats, right? You don't have a seat. But I'd root against them, right? But I'd go to the game every Saturday, because the tradition, and to see those gold helmets coming out of the tunnel is like, I'm telling you, it's worth whatever they're paying for tickets. They're not charging enough to see this team. I'm just telling you.
Well, I have to say, Jeff, that 7.5 minute monologue certainly has me fired up. I'm being serious. That was so good on so many levels. Yeah, look, I mean, this is a special episode. The Aer Lingus College Football Classic is a Saturday, 7:30 local time in the evening, 2:30 Eastern. Games at NBC in the States. And obviously it's in Dublin. It is on Sky Sports as well, because of Peacock, the agreement, which is great as well. No Neil and Jeff and Jabal or Phoebe on the sidelines. I'm just going to publicly say that should have happened. I think I'm going to slag all you lads in person. I know that probably couldn't happen, but it would have been great to see all the Sky Sports ones go over and do it maybe next year. It's a big moment for football fans here. Like that's as big a game as we'll get unless the NFL comes. And I think that's bigger than, we've got Georgia Tech, FSU coming next year. I'm sorry, but in 25, if you have Ohio State, if you have Georgia, big university, look, they're all big college, big people fly over, and the games are great. I think this is the game. Like having Notre Dame over is a big idea. And look, this is a pre-game. There's a good chance a lot of people are going to watch this, especially people with the game. I think it's a great moment for football here. But I already hope, but I asked Marcus Freeman this a few weeks ago, will you come back? And he's like, yeah, we'll come back. Coach Newberry, when I spoke to him, he wants to come back, and they haven't even flown out yet, so I think that says an awful lot. I have never seen anything like it in my life in terms of hotel rooms. It's the biggest movement of people since the Second World War, Jeff, from North America. It is insane. So it's going to be a great day. I guess just if we talk about it a little bit, what is your impression of Marcus Freeman? Because I was very impressed when I spoke to him. Just the calmness, the collectiveness, and then when we spoke to like JD Bertrand and Audric Estime in Dublin when we met them a few months ago, they love him. I think that says a lot about a guy who's still quite young.
Marcus Freeman is one of the young guys in coaching. You hear people talk about this, and I think because you've had a chance to speak with him directly, Marcus Freeman has the it factor. When you sit down with him, you realize you're in the presence of somebody that really, really, really gets it, is sharp, that understands, that communicates, that can relate to players, to all of those things. Now, the thing that Marcus Freeman is the most intense pressure cooker, or one of maybe the 5 most intense pressure cooker jobs in the entire college football landscape, right? Because of the expectation that's been built at Notre Dame over the last 60 years, right? The national championships, the Heisman Trophy winners, the NFL draft choices, the success, the winning percentages, the bowl games, all of it. So the focus, Notre Dame is such a unique animal, Michael. Notre Dame is a small Catholic institution in the Midwest, right? And this is a tremendous story. Knute Rockne, who was probably the first legendary coach at Notre Dame, actually envisioned this whole thing well before it happened. Notre Dame was a small 5,000 student, all-male Catholic school, right? And they became a national power under Rockne and built a 60,000 seat stadium when they have 5,000 students in their university and another 80,000 in the community. Right? You can't fill that stadium, right? but they did. And you look at how it was built. He built it with nothing around it. And they asked him, said, Newt, what are you guys doing? And he said, because one day there'll be people parking here. And you go to Notre Dame Stadium now, and it's a sea of tailgaters around it.
Yeah.
Their tailgate, I can't even describe it to you. On Wednesday, before a Notre Dame game, that lot starts to fill up with people who drive from all over the country. Some of them aren't even Notre Dame alumni. Notre Dame has what they refer to as their subway alumni. And those are people who have an affinity or a tie to the school, an emotional tie to the school, that never went to the school, right? They are the most iconic brand in college football, without a shadow of a doubt. Now, Marcus Freeman has to live up to those expectations, right? And that's a tall task. That's a big ask. Notre Dame is one of the only independent teams left in the United States. We see all this conference realignment going. Notre Dame belongs to the ACC and every other sport but one, and that's football, because Notre Dame football is separate, because it's unique, right? They've got their own television contract with NBC, their own television contract. They don't share it with anybody else. It's their money, right? It is an unbelievable opportunity for the fans in Ireland to see maybe something that you may never see again in your lifetime, right? And when that band comes out of that tunnel, right, and they have a kilted group that comes out first,
The Leprechaun as well,
and the Leprechaun, and da dun dun dun. This is what it's going to hear. Da dun 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 dun, and they do the special. It's a special like cadence as they come out, and I'm going to tell you something. If it doesn't get hair up on the back of your neck, then you don't have a pulse, because it is unbelievable.
Yeah, I think the game last year was a good success. It was a great year, but this year it's going to be rammed, and I think it will make the hairs on your back go up. I just feel fortunate to be there, and obviously thanks to the organisers for credentialing us. It's very fortunate.
We just signed a young player here, Chris Karlovecchia, and Chris was a part of that game last year in Dublin. He played for Nebraska, right? He's a young linebacker out of Traverse City, Michigan. And he signed with us after he got cut with by the Broncos. And I asked him the other day, I said, how was your experience in Ireland? And he couldn't say enough good things. He said it was tremendous, all the things that they got to see and do, the hospitality of the Irish people. He was shocked, frankly, at the knowledge of the Irish fans and how much they knew about football and understood football.
It's a hot ticket. There are thousands of NFL fans in Ireland. Thousands of fans, obviously, in the UK and Europe that are trying to get over it, can't get in. That's how big this is. So this is why we're talking about it. Navy won the last game in 2016. They haven't won one since. So it's going to be really interesting. I guess just finally, Jeff, do you think they'll be close? Because I'm asking this because they played each other in November last year, and it was 35-32 Notre Dame. Granted, bar 2017, every other game has been quite one-sided. So, personally for me, I'd like to see a close game. I think Dublin deserves it. But I strongly feel, and this would be relevant to any fan in the UK listening to this or beyond, I look at this Saturday, albeit as in a different stadium, I look at this Saturday as a test project for an NFL game in Ireland. There's no doubt about it.
I don't think there's any question, because and here's why. No other program is going to bring as much validity to the game as Notre Dame does. And so when people back in the States turn on their televisions and they see 60,000 or whatever Aviva holds or Croke Park holds, right?
48,000 in Aviva. So it's very small. It's 48,000. Croke Park would hold 82 for American football. So it's this one. It's very, Hold on. I took you in Richard there, do you remember? It's small, isn't it? It's quite.
But I'm gonna tell you, it's a beautiful venue, and when it's gonna be full and it's gonna be loud, and people back in America will see that. I think it is a litmus test for an NFL game in Ireland. It's an opportunity for the Irish fans to show off for everybody, because no team in college, and I'm talking Alabama, USC, Michigan, no team in college football gets the focus that Notre Dame does, that has the reach that Notre Dame does, right? So there will be plenty of eyes on this game. The Navy kids are heroic. I mean, what they're doing and what they put themselves through to be able to play college football. And Kenny told me this one. He said, Jeff, we get on a plane to fly to a road game. And he said, before the wheels of the plane are off the ground, every kid's asleep on the plane. And I said, what? And he said, they don't sleep. Their schedule is so packed tight with school and football and all the things that they have to do that they don't sleep. When the freshmen come in, right, they're allowed 1 hour of physical training. You can go to your sport for 1 hour a day. You know what Kenny would do with them as freshmen? He'd put them in the weight room, shut the lights off, and let them sleep for an hour. That's how much they tax these kids. And yet they're able to go out and play at a high level. And they do not belong on the field with Notre Dame athletically if you just went player for player. But they're able to play with Notre Dame and teams like Notre Dame because they've got such great character. They play so hard. And it'll be interesting to me to see what Navy's going to do offensively. Are they going to stay with the wishbone? Are they going to stay with the option offense? Or are they going to try and come into the 21st century with, a more balanced attack?
I guess the last thing I will say, Jeff, on this game, on the Aer Lingus College Football Classic this Saturday, 7:30 our time. I know Jeff's playing at midnight Irish time, UK time, and I'm sure he'll find a way in BC Place to watch the game privately before he does it. And I'm joking. You're playing just after this game, aren't you? So you're going to find it hard to watch this game.
It's going to be tough because we'll be on a charter heading home. But I certainly, I'll have my Wi-Fi hooked up and I'll be following it as close as I can.
I'll send you some pictures. Don't worry. The big question is this: Sam Hartman, first game of Notre Dame, and it's in Dublin. I think that is obviously the biggest storyline is Notre Dame coming over. The ties it has to Ireland, the Catholic. Look, there's no getting past the Catholic heritage. There's a huge mass in Dublin Castle this Saturday at 11 o'clock in the morning. Then they're going to do the walk to start going to the stadium. It's incredible. But Sam Hartman, first game, went from Wake Forest to Notre Dame. Have you seen much of Sam Hartman?
I would say Sam Hartman is a talented player. Sam Hartman is a guy that, you look at what you're able to. Okay, understand, Wake Forest is the second smallest Division I university in the United States. They play in the ACC against mega powers, people like Pitt, people like Syracuse, people like Boston College, Clemson, North Carolina State. They go in there and battle those people, right, with the smallest enrollment in college football. Sam Hartman put at the controls of the Notre Dame offense. I think it's going to be exciting to watch because he's got talent all around him, right? The focus will be different than he's ever felt because being the quarterback at Wake Forest is a lot different than being the quarterback at Notre Dame. And you look back and you see over your shoulder, oh, shit, that's Joe Montana. Oh, there's Rick Meyer. Oh, there's Joe Theismann. Oh, there's Terry Hanratty. I mean, you think about the quarterbacks that have come through Notre Dame, right? I mean, the national championships, all of that history, all of that expectation, all of that focus, all of that attention is now directly on Sam Hartman. How he deals with it is going to tell us a lot about what kind of professional prospect he is. Because if you can survive the focus, if you can survive the glare of the hot lights at Notre Dame as a quarterback, then you can survive anywhere.
Just finally, global football. The gift program sees the NFL Academy taking on the UK NFL Academy taking on a high school on Friday night, and there's 2 other high school games with special guests on Friday night. So I think for football fans here, it's awesome. If you're in the UK, fly over. You can get around there, fly over. I've got a floor in my hotel beside the stadium. You're more than welcome to DM me and bid at least €200 for the floor. You can have it. There's every hotel room's gone. But Jeff, I wish you were coming over, man. Hopefully next year we got well, hopefully not, because you got the CFL thing going on. But sometime we will go to a college game in Dublin and we'll have the crack. Do you want to sign us out?
Yep. And again, I'd like to say thank you to all of you who joined us again today and become a part of the tribe. If you have a chance, say a little prayer, a little pulley for the island of Maui as they fight themselves back from a devastating fire. Michael, it's always a pleasure, and it was really fun today to talk college football and talk Notre Dame and Navy in what will be, I'm sure, a tremendous, tremendous day out.
Great to hear from Nicole as we look forward to this weekend. Great to chat to Nicole as well, and appreciate everyone checking out her work. She's going to be the main NBC analyst this year, and NBC showing the game, which is also on Sky Sports this weekend. Let's quickly look at Navy. We talked about the fact that they are not like a normal college. It's not like the transfer portal. It's a naval academy. Let's look at one player each. I guess for me, I'm going to look at the wide receiver, Jaden Numbarger. He is currently the second on the depth chart at wide receiver. He missed the whole of the spring training season with an injury, but I feel like he could genuinely have, I wouldn't say a breakout year, but he had 16 catches for 265 yards, 2 touchdowns last season. That's an average of 22.1 yards per game. He needs to take it up a gear. If Navy are going to win on Saturday, he needs to get to a point where he's being more productive than the other wide receiver on this roster. He needs to try and become active in this game to give Navy a chance, because there's no point in denying it. They are the underdog.
Yeah. It's an offense that doesn't pass the ball enough, nearly as much as they should in the modern day, and so hopefully we see the new offensive coordinator in, obviously coming from Kennesaw State, pass the ball a little more there, still around the triple option offense, but yeah, I'm hoping to see a few more passes incorporated. My player is going to go on to the defensive side. He's called John Marshall, which is a great name for a naval officer.
Sounds Irish.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah. He's about like a sort of hybrid linebacker safety. It's a position that they actually call striker. Now, goodness knows it's been a long time since we've had a good striker in the Aviva Stadium. Hopefully Evan Ferguson can change that in the time to go. But yeah, Marshall, he's essentially just going to blitz flat out. He's had 7 sacks in his last 4 games last year. 2 of those came against Notre Dame. He's like firing out of a cannon. Unbelievable pace and aggression that comes after offensive linemen with. So especially going to be looking out for him against that enormous Notre Dame offensive line. That'll be a really good matchup to watch.
Yeah, that's going to be key, because he's going to be literally the key man to stop them on Saturday as well. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned Evan Ferguson. I think Darren Randolph was all right, to be fair, though.
Darren Randolph was very good. I believe his dad was like a basketball player or something like that.
I was sitting over there one night, and he was clean flew in goal, and he skied it, and the whole place started laughing. He was great. He was
amazing.
Who have you got for Navy?
I've decided to pick Dabo Fofana, who he's a fullback, but since it's a triple option offense, the fullback is actually more important than in any other offense pretty much, because he blocks, but not only that, he actually gets a chance to run, and not just in short yardage situations. He's small enough. He's only 5'8", but he had about 750 yards last year, 6 touchdowns, and his second biggest game came against Notre Dame last year, and it was 133 yards, and he got a touchdown against them in what was eventually a really close game. And he's extremely interesting guy. In his freshman season, he spent the first half of the year as part of the Navy orchestra, and he played the cello. And I believe his family's from the Ivory Coast, and he's from Georgia or something like that. And he's just really interesting because every highlight you see of him, he gains yards, and someone gets a hand on him and he breaks free every single time. So he breaks the first tackle every time. And to be honest, when you're watching fullbacks, there's nothing better than just watching a good fullback. They're a dying breed in pretty much every offense, but they're so fun when you actually have an offense that uses one effectively, like the Kyle Juszczyks or Patrick Ricards, all of those type of guys. So I'm really, really excited to see Dabo Fofana this year.
And for people that weren't aware about Navy as well, a couple of guys actually got ties to Ireland. The senior wide receiver Colin O'Connor and junior tight end DJ Donovan. O'Connor's great-grandparents are immigrants from Ireland and were born near Dublin. Both of his great-grandfathers, Patrick Joseph O'Connor and Patrick Joseph Murphy, came to the United States, came to the United States in the early 1900s and settled in the New York City area. He volunteered for the U.S. Army not long after settling in America, so he's continued that service. Yeah, absolutely. Donovan's great-grandfather, Daniel Donovan, was born in Ireland in 1910 in Castle Island, County Kerry.
That's
He
20
was
minutes
one
away.
of 12 brothers and sisters. Tommy Bo would love that. His great-grandmother, Margaret Mohan, was born in Tipperary. They both immigrated to the United States at different times, but met in New York at an Irish dance. So approximately 20 members of Donovan's family are travelling to attend this game, and his family are planning to visit the farm where his great-grandfather grew up. Well, this boy here, Lee, is going to have to head to Cal.
I think Connor's one of them. 20.
We'll have to get him over to the road to Tralee before it ends this week. It should be good fun. Maybe he can be one of the escorts for one of the roses. That would be even better.
Well, but at this point, the Rose Tralee is over, so we'll say no more. But who knows who's won it? If they're not all on the field on Saturday with the Cliffords, Shawnee Shea and all, they've missed the point here. I won't even mess with it. It shows you the significance that this island's had on the States as well. And one thing, talking about the significance of the US and Ireland working together, is this high school game that's taking place on Friday. You've got 6 different schools, including the Junior Irish Wolfhounds, which is a national team here for us. And also the NFL Academy are coming over from London, and they're buzzing about it. Lopez Sanusi is originally from Belfast, and he has a chance of making it now in college football, so we want to wish him the very, very best. I had the chance to chat to Patrick Steenberge from the Gift Games ahead of this on Friday, which is taking place in Energy Park. Here's myself and Patrick chatting with one of the head coaches of one of the high schools. Okay, folks, welcome into a special Pro Football Ireland episode as we're getting set. It's a big week in Ireland. It's a big week for the game here. It's obviously the game on Saturday between Notre Dame and Navy is taking place in the stadium, but there's an equally interesting and great event happening this week with the event in Energy Park in Donnybrook, formerly Donnybrook Stadium, the Gift event. It's Dublin Friday Lights, triple header between multiple schools, high schools. You got Bonner and Brenny High School against the NFL Academy, Seton Hall against Baylor, and then the AFI Irish Wolfhounds are going to go up against the Community School of Naples. It's all part of Global Football's initiative, and I'm delighted to welcome, firstly, Patrick Steenberge to pre-game, as we call it. Patrick, how are you doing? You good?
I'm well, Michael. Yeah, thanks for having us on here. And we're fired up. We've been getting ready for about 2 years, so it's almost time to play ball.
Before we bring in Coach Fitzgerald, Patrick, just talk to us around this project. So for anyone watching or listening to this, talk to us about this GIFT project and what you're aiming not just to do this year, but next year also.
Sure. This actually is something I wanted to do long ago. I started the Global Football Organization in 1996, so this is year 27. And I brought some, mainly been working with a lot of the Division III colleges, and I brought a number of those teams over to Ireland, as well as, to the UK, to Spain, to Italy, different countries. And I've had some high school teams, but when Notre Dame and Navy announced that they were going to play in Ireland back in 2012, our travel partners with the Anthony Travel Group, that's where they're based, is at Notre Dame. And so John Anthony and I talked about, getting involved in bringing high school teams. So that year in 2012, we brought 12 teams. Played 3 doubleheaders in Donnybrook and Parnell Park and out in Navan, Park Tulchin. So it was a great success. And then we kept going in 2014 when Penn State and Central Florida were there. I brought a couple PA schools. And then in 16, we had a triple header, again, with different schools from different states, which Coach Fitzgerald was part of that event. So, and we've just been waiting for COVID to stop and for people to start traveling again. So now we've got it going, and I'm actually, as we talk here, like just today, I was talking with some other schools about next year. Florida State and Georgia Tech have already announced for next year. So I've got other schools now that are rolling in now that they can plan it as an annual event. So I see it just expanding, but it's really good high school football. And in the 2016 games, the triple header there were 5 guys that actually played on those teams that went on to be starters at Notre Dame on their defense. And one of them is still playing because of COVID. Their defensive captain, J.D. Bertrand, will be playing against the Naval Academy. So it's good high school football.
Patrick, that seems really, really interesting, just generally for fans here, because it's one thing watching the NFL, then going to the college game and actually seeing where it's at. We've all watched Friday Night Lights over here, so actually having the opportunity to see it really in person is going to be awesome. And to have Coach Fitzgerald on from Seton Hall is awesome. Coach, firstly, welcome in. Really appreciate you taking your time to chat to us ahead of this big event on Friday night.
Well, I'm excited to be on this call with Patrick and you, Michael, and we're getting ready for the game this week, and trying to stay focused on the task at hand, which is playing a great Baylor team. So we're honored to be part of this event, and honored to share the field with a great opponent.
Talk to us around your sort of background into this, Coach, because you were talking off screen before we started recording that this isn't your first rodeo doing this gift event.
No, I was a part of the 2016 game when I was an assistant at St. Peter's in New Jersey. And Patrick and I stayed in touch. We both have obviously Patrick is a Notre Dame legend, and I grew up a Notre Dame fan, so we had a bunch of mutual connections, and stayed in touch over the years, and met many times at the American Football Coaches Association convention at different places in January every year. And, we just stayed in touch, and I became the head coach here at Seton Hall Prep in 2018. And I knew that our school would really dive into this opportunity, when we were ready to. And after COVID and some success that we had on the field, and our administration really wanted to take part in this. And they've just done a tremendous job in supporting our players, our families, our school at this. So we're excited to bring a large contingent over to Dublin.
Talk to us, Coach, about that contingent you're bringing over. You're going up against a school from Tennessee in Baylor. For people that are listening, watching this, maybe aren't aware of Seton Hall, or just where it's located. Talk to us about Seton Hall and just sort of your plans for the weekend for Friday.
Sure. So Seton Hall Prep is about 15 minutes west of New York City. We're minutes from Newark Airport. We are the oldest Catholic school in the state of New Jersey. And we have a rich tradition, not only athletically, but academically and service-wise. And it's a great place to work. And we have a large Irish background. Our headmaster, Father or Monsignor, Michael Kelly, is as Irish as they come, and he's excited to send us over there. He won't be joining us, but he will be with us in spirit. We have a Gaelic society. We march in the West Orange St. Patrick's Day parades. Our quarterback's first name is Liam. We have a tight end, O'Sullivan. We have a lineman, McCabe, Irish background. So it adds a little extra flavor to this whole thing.
It's unbelievable just to sort of hear, Patrick, just from what Coach said there now, the connections there, and how I think sometimes being from here, we might take it for granted, but like just seeing what you set up there, and even what Coach has talked about, like just the school itself. I guess, Patrick, for you must take a great sense of pride in being able to organise something like this, and you see the development of this from when it was last held here to now. And I guess the team that a lot of us will not just be aware of, obviously you got the Irish Wolfhounds, the youth team there, which is fantastic to see, and we've seen the great work that went on at the European Flag Football Championships recently in Limerick. But you've got that gap of, you've got soft core, hardcore NFL fans in Ireland, and then the more hardcore ones will be very aware of the NFL Academy and what they're trying to do. We've seen guys go from the NFL Academy and make it into the NFL. And there's a guy that played with the Belfast Trojans, Lopez Sanusi, who is currently with just leaving the NFL Academy this year. So a lot of people are very aware of it. I think it's first off, it's great to have the Wolfhounds involved, and obviously great to have every team involved. But it's cool to see that connection with the NFL Academy in London, who are doing a lot as well over there to try and promote the game. So it's a natural progression to have them playing Bonner and Preddy this Friday at midday.
Yeah, I've in everything I've done since I started global football is try to unite student athletes from different parts of the world. Most of my trips when I take the Division III colleges and some high schools, we'll just play against a team, whether it be in Spain or Italy or France or Ireland. This event, we've been able to weave in some of the teams, and now that the AFI organization, really seems to be on their feet in a positive way. It's great to be able to work with them. Aiden's been really good to work with, putting it together from his end. And then, the NFL Academy obviously brings another level, of visibility to it. Their original coach there for many years, Tony Allen, was a long, long time friend, still a dear friend. And he's the one who asked about getting them into this about a year ago. He called me up and said, "Hey, if you're still doing that event in Ireland, we need to play some American teams. We need to get." So it'll be interesting just to see that matchup, because nobody's going to have any film really because they got a lot of new kids. They've got a new coach there. So there's a lot of interesting aspects of this from the football side as well as the cultural side. And as Bill mentioned, it's really important that these American kids get over there and they spend a couple of days embedding themselves into the Irish culture. The fact that they're going to stay on the UCD campus, I think, is outstanding. They're going to see what a college campus is like in Ireland. They're going to train on the fields. They're going to eat breakfast in the halls. My daughter actually did graduate school over at UCD. That was when I was working closely with Brian Mullins to put a lot of this together. So there's a lot of elements to this. And I know from Coach Fitzgerald, all the coaches are focused, on that time on the field. Obviously, that's their goal, is to perform as best they can, have their kids ready to play. And I know that all the teams will be, it's early season, but they'll be ready to play and show off, a really good level of high school football, which is the stepping stone, as I mentioned, to the kids that then would go to Notre Dame or to the Naval Academy or to Georgia Tech. So I think anybody who loves football, and from what I hear, nobody's getting a ticket to the Notre Dame Navy game unless you got one in hand or you got a couple €1,000, right? so I think anybody who wants to watch some good football, the old Donnybrook Stadium is going to be rocking all day Friday.
I'm going to put the link in the bio, and that includes the podcast, YouTube as well. Folks, do check it out. I'm going to be down there, hopefully chatting to Bill here as well. Bill, to talk to us, because I talked to Coach Newberry with Navy a few days ago and spoke to him around making the trip. I think sometimes, it's easy to glance over something like this. Like this is a huge deal for your lads, for your players that are, I'd say, like the vast majority of them are, maybe getting outside of America for the first time and actually experiencing a different country. But it's almost like a mini training camp, isn't it? They're going to be able to have that relationship and deepen bonds with each other this week.
Absolutely. First time on a plane for some of our players. And we're focused, as Patrick said, on getting ready for the game here. This trip is, I feel, going to pay dividends for us. We're going to be stuck together, from Tuesday morning when we're at school and we practice and we get on the plane all the way to, Sunday afternoon, basically a full week together. So I think, we'll make some more connections, like you said. It is like a mini training camp as far as the affective side goes, so to speak. So, we're excited about that, excited to spend time. We're going to meet some great people. I know that's going to happen. The people of Dublin and the Irish people are just so tremendous, so welcoming. That's one of the reasons, maybe the main reason why I wanted to come back and do this. Because I know that our guys are going to love it, and the way that Patrick organizes it, it's top notch. It's a first class operation. It's like a bowl game, just at the beginning of the season. So there's a lot of work to do for the game, but we're going to enjoy the other parts of Dublin as well.
Yeah, Patrick's pretty spot on, folks. It's borderline impossible to get a ticket for this game on Saturday in the Aviva. So delighted, Patrick, that you were able to get all these lads and ladies into the game on Saturday. It's a great experience for them as well. I guess, Patrick, just while we're here, obviously Bill's on and he's from Seton Hall. Could you maybe talk to us just around some of the other schools that we haven't got on this call right now, and just talk about, like, for example, Bonner and Prendy, but the community school in Naples as well. I'm led to believe that there's young fans traveling over from Florida as well there. So it's it's really so much more than just looking at a poster and seeing these school names. There's so many people coming over, so many ties to Ireland as well.
You know, there's really solid history in each of these schools, but they're all uniquely different. You know, like Bill said, the Seton Hall Prep has been around a long time in New Jersey, and a real powerhouse in the New Jersey Catholic League, which is one of the very best leagues in America. You know, and they turn out some great students as well as some great student athletes out of that place. That fits. Bonner and Trendy is in Delaware County, a suburb of Philadelphia. And they told me it's nicknamed the 33rd county of Ireland. It's such an Irish contingent of people living there. In fact, they're getting brand new Kelly green uniforms. They're coming in all green. When they come running out into Energia Park, they're going to be lit up they want the Irish fans supporting them as they play against the NFL Academy, you know, so they want to be the home team for the Irish. So I think that'll be really fun. It's two schools. It was a boys' school and a girls' school that combined together, which has happened a lot in our country. But they've got Jack Muldoon, a pretty Irish guy, as their head coach, and he's got his guys ready. They had a very good year last year. He's replacing a lot of talent, but they're excited, as is the whole kind of city of Philadelphia, which is obviously big Irish country. Community school in Naples is a smaller private school in Naples, Florida, obviously a beautiful part of the world. They came over also in 2016 and played one of the teams from Atlanta. And they've got a new athletic director, came in a year ago. Some people may know. Eugene Chung is his name, and he's got a New England Patriots Super Bowl ring. He was part of that team as an offensive lineman. And he now came in as athletic director about a year ago. And from talking to some of my buddies, it sounds like they've been able to get some new big offensive linemen to show up to play against the Irish team, the Junior Wolfhounds. And that's going to be a fascinating game because they keep asking me, what are the Wolfhounds like? I said, I had no idea. You know, I've seen the senior level teams play, and I've gone to a couple of junior games. But I know that the sport of American football is evolving so quickly in Ireland, you know, and I've been around it enough to know that the GAA is the powerhouse. And when a kid's young, he's playing GAA, he's playing that form of football or hurling, and that's how they develop their skills, which is awesome. When George O'Leary was over there before the Georgia Tech game, UCF game, when he played, I went to Crow Park with him, and after watching that game, he said every athlete, every youngster should play Gaelic football because it's left, right, up, down, forward, backward, both hands, both feet. It's just an incredible sport for that. So the young men who are playing Gaelic sports can evolve and move into the American football scene, and it sounds like there's a big attraction. I know the Steelers now have identified Ireland as a global market for them, and I'm quite sure we're going to have a Steeler representative at our games. Especially for the third game. He wants to watch the Irish team perform there against the Naples team. So, yeah, we're going to bring people from all over the country, coming in different parts to Ireland for that. Estimates are there's going to be 40,000 Americans in Dublin that week. So it's not a great time to go meet the Irish. They're going to be there'll be plenty of Americans, but we're going to focus it. We're going to blend in, like I said, some educational things, you know, some time away. And then Saturday afternoon, we have a really fun, it's a private event, but we've got Crow Park for our awards luncheon. So all of our teams are going to be, you know, imagine we're going to have like 500 people in the 84,000 Crow Park. And they've set that up for us to do our awards luncheon. We'll have big screen video. I think that's going to be kind of a magical afternoon for the boys. We're honoring the guy who was really kind of the godfather of this event. Was Brian Mullins, you know, a true icon in Gaelic sports and the director of sport at UCD for many years. And he just, from the first time I met him, he took me under his wing and directed me and helped me meet people and told me who to talk with, who not to talk with, you know, and just a great, great man who, you know, passed away sadly about a year ago. But we're going to honor him with our Global Ambassador Awards. For each team, we'll recognize one of their players, and we'll do that at Crow Park, have a video of Brian. So we're trying to wrap in, you know, giving them the first thing they're going to do when they hit the ground is they're going to go to Nafina and learn Gaelic football and hurling. So all the boys that get off the plane, I want to get them active right away. And they're going to go do that. So they're going to start with the Gaelic sports, play our American football in between, and then end up there and then over to Aviva for the Notre Dame Navy game that evening. So it'll be a full week.
Coach, I think, and just to echo in terms of Brad Mills, one of the best Gaelic players that ever played for Dublin. There's so many things, Bill, that Patrick said there. And I know you've been over here before, but from going to a game in Croke Park and just being in events in Croke Park, like when there's no sport being played, that'll be a hell of experience for those guys on the Saturday, that lunch as well. Just finally, Bill, from me, for yourself, for people watching or listening to this, like, you know, I think a lot of us, like, we have that mindset of an NFL season, 17, 18 weeks of games with all the prep beforehand. The college football season goes on to December. It's such a big deal for you guys, but your season only goes to the end of October, and I'm right in thinking as well, like, this would be a home game for you guys in that sense, you know, originally. Talk to us about your season, because it is quite short, and it almost makes this game even more significant as well, doesn't it?
Well, the game season is short. It's true. But, you know, here at our level, at our school and our league, you know, it's a 12-month commitment. You know, January 3rd, our team started off-season training. We were in the weight room 4 days a week, you know, January through May, and then we were able to get onto the field in June, and, you know, we started training camp here 2 weeks ago. So it's a lot of preparation for, you know, we're only guaranteed not at 10 games. We're only guaranteed to play 10 games. So our season could end the first week in November. So this game is very important because it has implications, even though it's an out-of-state team, for our playoffs. So every single game is important. We only play one a week, and we practice, you know, the 6 other days. So our guys will be sure to be locked in, because you don't get that many opportunities to play football. It's not like any, you know, some of the other sports where you can play a couple times a week. But we're looking forward to it. It's an historic opportunity for our school. You know, I would say it's once in a lifetime, but I'm going to do it twice. But you know, it's really special, and we are honored to be a part of it. And I'm so grateful to our school and our administration and our families and alumni for helping us to get over there. And we will represent Seton Hall Prep to the very best of our ability.
Absolutely. And just finally, Patrick, you know, one thing that I haven't mentioned, you said about some special guests there off record, but we've got the competition with Tag Leader at halftime as well. That happened in the college game last year. It was fantastic. I think we all feel, you know, we are honoured to be very part of this special day, I guess. Just to round up, sell the event to anyone listening to this sitting in Belfast, Kerry, Donegal, going, I might go down to Dublin on Friday.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Tag is getting to be a well-known character, I guess, in Ireland, helping young men who want to kick in America, help teaching them and helping them find a school in America. So yeah, they're going to do I guess they're doing a series of competitions around Ireland over the next, you know, prior to this week. And then on a Friday at halftime of our game 2 and game 3, so the Seton Hall Prep and then the AFI game afterwards, they're going to do a semifinals and finals, you know, just take 10 minutes of our halftime while our guys are recouping, and they're going to go out and have a kicking contest with Tag, you know, kind of getting it all done for them. So that's something exciting going to happen right there at halftime of our game, and to see some young Irish guys, you know, hoping to play in America. We've got the Naples team brought I think 30 cheerleaders with them. So folks who want to see American cheerleaders, you got 30 of them coming from Naples, Florida, who are going to cheer on against the AFI team. So against your junior Wolfhounds. So maybe the Wolfhounds will come up with some cheerleaders too. At least there'll be plenty of fans. But yeah, it's a full day, 3 games. You know, it's a very nice stadium. Everybody knows Donnybrook there. They put all new seats in on the seated side. There's about 2,500 seats, and then standing room. So I think we'll get a good crowd turning over throughout the day. And yeah, the tickets are just €10 for students, 20 for adults, and you could stay all day. You could watch 8-9 hours of football if you're so inclined. We'll have a chipper van there, and at the end, the Bective and the Wesley centers will be open for people that want some food and drink. So I'm looking forward to a great day. In fact, Seton Hall, they're doing a special pregame party up there at the old Wesley upstairs. They've rented it out for their alumni and their parents. So they're going to get ready for some American football, Irish style.
Well, I know when they market the Aer Lingus College Football Classic as much more than the game, there's one thing in saying it, but when you actually chat to you guys here, lads, you can really see, and like folks, Patrick's bang on there. You got your game starting at 12 o'clock with the NFL Academy playing. You can see local lads as well playing US talent. Then you got Seton Hall against Baylor, and the AFI Junior Wolfhounds get down and see them against Naples at 7 o'clock. It goes on all day. I'm going to be there in some form or not, so please do say hello if you do get there, folks. But if you're on the fence and you're interested in doing something, or if you're working at 4 or 5 o'clock and you can't make it, come for the game later on in the evening. Pop in anytime. Universe.com, and you can also check out globalfootball.com. But if you go to universe.com and search for those tickets, or if you're somehow stuck after not finding that or getting the link in the bio, hit me up on social media or hit us up as well, and we put it in your direction. Coach Fitzgerald, just want to wish you the very, very best luck as well. And Patrick, thank you so much just for your help as well, lads. And we're very much looking forward to this, and hope you enjoy the games on Friday and enjoy the game on Saturday. I hope we get a chance to relax on Saturday as well. Okay, that was Patrick, and also great chat with Bill. I'm really excited for this on Friday. I know you boys aren't going to be in the Saturday. Big shout out also to Ty Gleader, who is doing his Kicking King competition. The winner on Friday gets an opportunity to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Baltimore Ravens in October. All inclusive, so shout out to the Steelers for that. Can we also give a shout out to the Aer Lingus College Football Classic, as I literally reach and nearly fall for these lovely caps. I'm going to make you wear that now for this scene. Go for it. I mean, I haven't took the paper out of it. It'll be grand. collegefootballireland.com, click on shop, or head to Dame Street this week. It's open all week, and you can literally order online and pick up before game day. They got hoodies, everything. Appreciate the caps, lads, and a big thanks to Scott for coming on, and we also appreciate the coverage as well. You can check out information in our bio for the 2024 game. Let's look at the 2023 game. Notre Dame Navy this Saturday. Let's make our picks. I think next week for week 1 we'll make our picks for the year. Who's going to win it all at the end of the year? But we'll do that in the proper podcast next week. I'll go first. The last time these two guys played each other last year, there was 3 points, and it was like 36-33 or something like that there. I don't think it'll be as close this year. I think if we're getting to the third quarter and it's relatively, if there's 7 to 10 points in it, I'll be a happy man personally. I think when you've got the element of Sam Hartman's first game in Dublin, it's going to be difficult for Navy to come out and really put on a show. I'm going to say Notre Dame will win 42-21, but you're looking at a lot of that will come in the fourth quarter. I think Hartman puts on a performance, and let's be clear here, we're not just saying this because we're in Ireland. This game is being watched across the states. This is a big game at the weekend, and everyone, especially with the time as well. 42-21, who have you got?
I'm gonna have to agree with you. I feel like I'm Lee Corso here at the head gear. I'm gonna have to throw that off. I think Notre Dame's gonna take this one. I feel like Navy can cover the spread. I think it's around 17 points we're looking at a spread. I feel like Navy can cover that. I think Notre Dame get out ahead early. They're gonna be keen to try out this fancy new toy that is Sam Hartman in this offense. I think you're gonna see some fireworks here early on. I'm hoping for fireworks early on. So I think I'm going 42-24, which is it's similar. I know it's I think we're going to see points from both sides. I think it could be a case of Navy crawling back a few consolation touchdowns towards the end.
Nebraska were very, very far ahead of Northwestern at one point in this game last year, and they defied everything and came back, and that was one hell of a game. Come on, are we going to get a game like that on Saturday? Let us hope.
I've gone for a more closer scoreline than one you've decided to go for, because I believe in the Navy defense. I also think that you look through all the past scores, like it's been really, really close kind of every single year. And this is also a rivalry game. So like it's a game that everyone wants to get up for, and everyone knows the significance of it. But I do see Notre Dame winning this. I don't think there's anyone going against me on that, but I have it being a bit closer. I have 27-21 Notre Dame win. You know, I think it'll be a tough game, you know, if this option offense can waste a bit of clock, you know, with all that running they do. It'll be closer than what I think you expect it to be.
Well, let's see what happens. Obviously, this segment is presented by 88 Sport, the official betting partner of the NFL in Ireland and the UK. The odds for the game are below us right now, 18 plus please be gamble aware. Please do gamble responsibly. Big thanks to 888 for the sponsorship this year. We really appreciate it. But that's us for week 0. Big thanks to the Lingus College Football Classic for letting us use the Aviva, for Scott for coming on, for every one of our guests that have come on. For home field, you can use Ireland, code Ireland for 15% off. And just for everybody taking part in this, for you lads coming down here, we'll be back for week 1 next week, where I think we'll look at it in more detail. We'll get your interesting picks for not just who the champion's going to be, but what college gets a 4th spot in the playoff. But for Michael McQuaid, Dark Carter, Conall Diggin, we're off to practice for our halftime show on Saturday. I think is it us or Daniel O'Donnell, or who is it? No. Here, thanks so much. Big thanks to Lingus College Football Classic, and good luck to everybody coming down to Dublin on Saturday. We'll hopefully see you there.